Sir, you're charged with especially aggravated kidnapping. You're also charged with aggravated assault, and you're charged with theft of a firearm worth less than $2,500.
You're talking about stuff that is not relevant.
Hello and welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict, and boy do I have a case for you today.
Why is the dog chewing on this guy?
I think they have got the wrong guy there.
Got the wrong guy, and the dog was biting him.
He roughened him up quite a bit. There's a lawsuit.
9 out of 10 judges prefer watching the Recovery Addict live stream in their courtroom.
The fireworks are not done.
Now we're doing commentary on the case. Dati mihi Anglican free service Latino. Oh, for Trump's sake.
Is that correct?
I didn't ask you to interrupt me.
Good, well, that's not the shot we want. Well, yeah, it is. It works too. Good morning. Welcome to the Court of Public Opinion. I am the Recovery Addict. I was able to swipe screens properly without turning off the music. Let's see, where's chat? Where did chat go? Nope, I lost the mouse. There we go. All right, here we go. Good morning. All right, we got the chat summary. We got me here. We're gonna have to do a fast morning because court's gonna start here in just a minute. I'm a little quiet. Is that a little better? That's a little bit better. Music's a little loud is what it is. It is early. I'm in the wrong corner. There we go. I'm back. All right. I was trying to take a look outside to show you the mountains. Hope these people don't mind. It's public, right? I can see it from my house. Apparently, like the park's a good place to ride your bike and cuddle in the morning, and so good morning. I think they're in the jammas. I don't know. That's in the park outside. So urban camping, is that what it is? I think they rode there this morning just to lay on the basketball court and watch the sunrise. But it's like he's faking it. He's faking he's not asleep. I actually want to show you. I got an angle where I could just barely see some other mountains. Hold on just 1 second. That's not it. Let's go far. Hang on. We're going to get there. Oh, they're there. They're through the trees right here. Check this out. Oh, I didn't see the power lines when I looked with my own eyes, but okay. Here we go. There we go. Through the mountains, the sunrise. Way down there. I'm not sure. Is that Kennecott? That's not. Can't be Kennecott. Largest open-faced copper pit in the world. It might be there. But there's a schlode of I can't see any mountains. I give up. We'll go back here. All right. I thought I'd have a better shot for you, but I just can't frame it up. Good morning. Happy Thursday. Podcast Thursday today as we get ready to start with the trial that is right there. We have to sing happy birthday first as the camera's getting all fixed up. Let's go ahead and get that sorted up. If we have any birthdays today, let's see if we can get that sung to, and then we will begin with court. And we are watching the live the neighbor trial in the morning, and then we buckle up and jump all the way to Nevada, and we're going to watch once again the very exciting and intriguing Robert Tellis trial this afternoon. Let's see. Welcome sample user first in chat. No, just kidding. It was Jennifer Juniper. I'm not sure if it's first name, last name, first name. Jennifer Juniper, thank you very much for being first in chat. Congratulations. You narrowly won this morning. As a punishment for winning, we're going to send it to you with internet ownership for the rest of the day. And let's see. Here's our messages so we can begin. There we go. Join with me singing to the birthday people. Barb's, Rona, and June are celebrating today. You can help them celebrate by singing with me. Happy birthday. Stand up with me, deep breath, shoulders back, project your voice to the back of the room, blend your voice with those of your neighbors, deep, warm up with me if you will. La 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 la. There we go. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Barbs, Rona, and June. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Barbs, Rona, and June. Thank you very much for celebrating here with us. Pleasure, privilege, and honor is all ours. Thank you. Hopefully we can make your day even more specialistic. I made a new word for you today, just for you. Happy birthday. Good morning. Help yourself to free pancakes at Denny's or Waffle House or, does Village Inn still exist? Village Inn sounds like someone that give free pancakes on your birthday. If you know, you know, right? Happy birthday. We're going to fade the music out because court's starting and we have things to do, but don't stop partying. Party keeps going on all the way through the podcast tonight. Celebrate stock up 12% pre-market on Ernie's, says Greeters. I don't doubt it. All right. Where are we? Let's go to... Nope, that's not it.
All right, so you want obviously just the first part of the instruction read, because the other part of the stipulation instruction that we read before.
Oh, we faded the birthday music out for jury instructions.
Right, so just that first part, and then after I introduce the stipulations.
I'm gonna bring the music back. They're just talking about finalizing jury instructions. It's closer to Magna. Wrong direction. It's a rock quarry. I'm looking west. Lita.
Yes, before the...
There it is. Okay.
Before...
We're back in court.
Probably closing arguments, wherever that's going to be.
Got to fix this audio. It's terrible.
I had the clerk number the jurors, give them each a number, okay? And
they took away their names?
You're welcome to look at the list of juror numbers. If you want to have it here, you can take a look at it. I'm going to instruct them that if they have any questions that are sent back to us, that it be done by number. Instead of signing it, they would put, juror number 2, 3, 4, whatever it may be. Of course, the verdict form will have to be signed by the foreperson, and I'll instruct them not to use a number for that. And then if they're polled after the verdict, I'll have them polled by number. And then the clerk has a record. I believe we've sent you a record of the jurors and the numbers. I can have you, each of you want to take a look at the numbers here. Take a look at that and make sure. So, and then I'll give each of them a slip of paper telling them what their number is.
We're talking about jury because we are almost at the end of this trial. It could possibly go into closings today.
And if I forget, remind me to tell them this before we start. A lot of things going on at one time. So we're ready for the jurors. I see Miss Lorincz is here again. And we're ready for the jurors. Let's bring it back, please.
Enjoy doing the crochet. That sounds very relaxing. I used to crochet as a kid. I kid you not. I know how to crochet. I know how to crochet a rope. A single strand rope, just like loop after loop after. Once you start trying to go back on I can't do that part. I can make a long rope though. Never proved useful. It does unravel once you take the hook out, you pull, and the whole thing just goes away. It's amazing. I imagine you're doing more than just a rope though. I can knit. No, I cannot knit. Knitting has impressed me. It's like crocheting with chopsticks. Next level stuff there. Never made a pot holder? Nope. Well, I made a dirty spoon holder, one of those glazed dirty spoon holders in elementary school. But I didn't understand the principle right, and I glazed the thing without any painting or pictures on it. I was supposed to put like stickers on under the glaze or something. Never worked right. It was just
to remind the cameraman, please don't catch the jurors in any of your photos or video, okay? Thank you.
I think the judge needs to be more aggressive with the order. Not please don't. It's like, I'm ordering you not to. Cross stitch. Cross stitch makes sense because there's a map of what you're supposed to do. Got a good friend here in Utah who's probably one of the bigger
Morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back.
Well, the bigger sellers.
As I've done each morning, I'm going to ask you the same questions, okay? By show of hands, have any of you discussed this case with anyone? I see no hands. Have any of you had anyone discuss this case or contact you about this case? I see no hands. Has anyone discussed this case in your presence? I see no hands. Have any of you gone online and looked up anything about this case or communicated online with anybody about this case? Again, I see no hands. I appreciate that. We are ready for our next witness.
Judge, at this time, the attorney will move into evidence where the pre-marked identification purposes only as defense exhibit J and defense 1. We have medical records from Susan Lorincz from Care First Imaging.
Any objection?
Yeah, Your Honor.
That objection, defense J, will be in evidence as defense number 1. You said it's medical records
Yes, sir.
of Miss Lawrence.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
The defense will move into evidence where the pre-marked for identification purposes only as defense 8 as defense 2. These are Susan Lawrence's medical records from the HCA Florida Ocala Hospital.
No objection.
That objection, there'll be in evidence as defense number 2.
The defense will move into evidence where the pre-marked as defense I as defense 3. These are medical records of Susan Lawrence on Doyle Phillips, MD.
Any objection? No objection?
No, Your Honor.
That will be in evidence as defense number 3.
The defense will move in where the pre-marked as defense A as defense 4. These are sworn
1 second. I thought we already had defense A.
A, but it's not been moved in.
What is number 2? What was that?
It was H.
H. Okay, I heard it wrong.
I love that so many of you are productive while you watch this. I literally just sit here and watch and listen. And so many of you are creating things at the same time. That is just awesome. Wool applique, cross stitch, knitting, sewing. I can listen and sew. I can't even just sew. My friend that is big on eBay, I think her YouTube, or sorry, her eBay seller name is Bubba Can Dance or something like that. It's a funny seller name, but she's like one of the largest cross-stitch sellers on eBay. I ran into her back in the day when I was buying and selling, doing retail arbitrage online. Bite Me says, I can listen and count mosquitoes.
So this is going to go in as defense 4. These are photographs taken from Patrick Miller.
No objection.
The objection, defense A, will be in evidence as defense number 4.
The defense will move into evidence where it's been pre-marked as defense B as defense 5. These are photographs taken
B, like Bravo? Okay.
by Taylor Paxton.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
The objection, defense B, will be in evidence as defense number 5.
The defense will move into evidence what has been pre-marked as defense C, as defense 6. This is the letter that Susan Lorincz wrote during her interview with Detective Pickles.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Defense brings that letter in.
Defense C
That's
will be in
interesting.
evidence as defense number 6.
The defense will move into evidence what has been pre-marked as defense D, as defense 7. It's a photograph of Advocate Owens.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Defense D and Delta will be in evidence as defense number 7.
Judge, the last one, defense E as defense 8. This is a photo stipulation. So to ask the court for permission to publish the photograph of Ms. Owens and then read the photo stipulation.
Any objection?
No, Your Honor.
Defense E will be in evidence as defense number 8. If you can listen carefully, ladies and gentlemen. A stipulation. When parties agree that certain facts are true, that is called a stipulation of fact. You must accept stipulated facts as having been proven. However, the significance of these facts, as with all facts, is for you to decide. In this case, the stipulated facts that you must accept as true are... Now I need a stipulation.
Are what? Fill in the blank here.
Photo stipulation. The state and the defendant have stipulated that the photograph of Advocate Owens entered into evidence by the defense was taken by Susan Lorincz on February 25th, 2022.
Permission to publish?
This is defense number 8. Yes, ma'am?
She's showing something to the jury. I don't know why the state just stipulated and allowed it to come in. Medical records. Like, sure, bring it in.
Proceed.
Yes, Your Honor. We will call Joshua Wright.
First witness of the day, Joshua. Didn't get the last name. Oh, seat is not working? Try it now.
Raise your right hand for me. You swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Please tell us your full name.
My name is Josh Wright. That's W-R-I-G-H-T.
And please tell us how you are currently employed.
I have my own private practice.
Doing what?
I'm an expert witness in forensic ballistics.
And how long have you been in private practice?
Approximately 11 years.
And where is your practice?
I'm based out of Asheville, North Carolina, but I testify all over the country.
Did you just fly in from Asheville yesterday?
Yes, I did.
How's the weather in Asheville?
Beautiful.
It's
Cooler
nice.
than here?
Yes, cooler than here.
Asheville's like the resort area of
How were
North
you
Carolina.
employed prior to private practice?
I worked with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for approximately 9 years.
And what did you do with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement?
I first got hired on as a crime lab technician in the evidence section. So there we brought in evidence from the 13 surrounding counties, and I would import that evidence to the vault. After working there for about a year, I got promoted to a forensic technologist in the latent print and photography section. So there I was assisting the latent print section. Anytime they would develop a print on a piece of evidence, I would photograph it, and then I would dodge and burn and try to develop that print so they could use it for comparison purposes. And during that time, I also became a crime lab technician, a forensic technician in the crime scene unit, and went through 6 months of training there and assisted crime scene on hundreds of crime scenes and went to autopsies. And then I was promoted to a crime lab analyst in the firearms section, and I went through a 2-year training program, but essentially firearms, we were examining firearms for proper function. I would examine fired ammunition components such as bullets and cartridge cases to determine whether they came from a particular firearm. And that's what I did up until the time that I left FDLE on my own accord. And I also continued doing crime scene during that whole time as well.
Will you please go over your educational background for us?
Yeah, I have a degree in criminology, a Bachelor of Science degree in criminology from Florida State University. And because there was no degree in forensic science at that time, I did get my training from FDLE. But at Florida State, it was a criminology degree. That is what I received.
Okay. Will you please go over your training and experience and we'll go step by step. We'll start
I think he meets the bare minimum.
Sure. So that's like an apprenticeship. When I got hired on into that section, it's a 2-year training program. And so we follow the guideline from the Association of Firearm Toolmark Examiners. And so starting off, I did a standardized coursework in the area of the history of firearms and ammunition development. I also did the history of the science, which is firearms identification. I then did some exercises with firearms and assembly and disassembly and learning how to figure out what was broken on a firearm so I could make it function so I could test fire that firearm. And so I disassembled dozens of firearms and put them back together. I also did comparative microscopy, so I examined hundreds and hundreds of bullets and cartridge cases to try to develop my eye to make a determination whether a specific bullet or cartridge case came from a particular firearm. I also received training from outside agencies such as the the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and from them I was taught gunshot residues and distance determination. I also received training from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives in serial number restoration. I also toured over a dozen firearm manufacturing plants in the northeastern United States and one ammunition powder plant, actually south of Tallahassee.
Okay, will you please go over your training experience in crime scene and shooting reconstruction? And let's start off, I know probably pretty self-explanatory in the title, but just to inform us, what is crime scene and shooting reconstruction in general?
Yeah, so you're reconstructing the crime scene. You're trying to determine the events that took place during a crime. And oftentimes guns are used, and so you would do shooting reconstruction. I did this while I was with FDLE on some cases, and then I've received training almost every year since I left FDLE, specifically in shooting incident reconstruction. And so you're trying to determine bullet path, shooter location, and the trajectory, which is the angle that the bullet took through a crime scene.
And ballistics in general, what is
That's why he's here.
I use it as an umbrella term. So the literal term for ballistics is the study of the bullet in flight. There's internal ballistics, which is how the bullet acts within the firearm. External ballistics is the study of the bullet in flight. And then terminal ballistics, which is the study of what happens to the projectile and an object that it hits. But in layman's terms, ballistics is used as kind of an umbrella term for any crime that involves a firearm. So that could be shooting reconstruction, gunshot residues, gunshot wounds, identifying bullets and cartridge cases back to guns, and just about anything that involves a firearm within a crime.
And do you have any further training and experience in ballistics that you haven't shared with the jury already?
No, just training that I've received from outside companies since I've gone private.
Do you belong to any professional associations?
Yes, I'm a member of the Association of Firearm Toolmark Examiners and the International Association for Identification.
Have you ever testified, have been qualified to give opinion testimony in the fields of, which we just spoke about, firearm identification, crime scene and shooting reconstruction, and ballistics in general?
Yes, I have.
And how many times?
94.
Whoa.
Do you testify for both the prosecution and defense?
Yes, I've worked with prosecution. I have 2 cases right now that I'm working with prosecution, and I work with defense majority of the time.
And in those 94 times that you've testified, have they been both for the prosecution and the defense?
Yes, they have.
Your Honor, we respectfully request for Mr. Wright to be allowed to give opinion testimony in the fields of firearm identification, crime scene and shooting reconstruction, and ballistics in general.
That's triple.
Any voir dire or objection?
That's triple expert.
All right. I'll find that you can testify and form an opinion in those stated fields.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Wright, did you look at the photographs of the crime scene?
They're getting their money's worth out of this guy.
Case?
Yes, I did.
And what other documents did you review?
I reviewed an autopsy report and photos, I believe a deposition of the medical examiner. I reviewed crime scene photos, a crime scene report, and a video. I also reviewed some transcripts from witnesses and law enforcement officers.
Okay. What type of firearm evidence was found at the scene?
There was a Ruger LCP-22 and a Remington RM-380 model, .380 caliber pistol. They were both pistols.
Yes, sir. And where were they found?
They were found in the bedroom.
Okay. Did CSI from the Marion County Sheriff's Office, crime scene investigators, did they do a trajectory analysis on the front door?
Yes, they did.
And can you tell the jury what is trajectory analysis?
So trajectory analysis is the analysis of the of objects that bullets struck during their flight through a crime scene. So we're trying to determine where the shooter was standing and what angle of impact was imparted on an object that a bullet passed through or into.
Do these tools need to be calibrated to ensure that they are functioning properly?
Yeah, so there's several tools that you would use to do this type of analysis. One is a trajectory rod, an angle finder, and a protractor. You also have laser or string that you can attach to the trajectory rod, calipers to measure the suspected bullet hole, and then tape measures. But of all those, what really needs to be calibrated is the laser, if a laser is used, the trajectory rod, and the angle finder. If it's a digital angle finder, then you need to calibrate that.
How would one calibrate the digital angle finder?
So an easy way to calibrate the angle finder is you can do it right there at the scene. So if you have a countertop, and that's not always present at every scene, so these things should be calibrated prior to leaving your agency. But if not, then you could do it right there at the scene, say on a countertop. If you have a flat surface, you can ensure that the reading on the angle finder is near zero or within those error rates of that particular model of angle finder. Same with the trajectory rod. Much like a pull stick on a pool table, you would lay it down on a flat surface, roll that trajectory rod, make sure there's no wobble in that. If there's a wobble, that means the trajectory rod is bent, which can lead to bad results.
This doesn't sound scientific.
And then as far as the laser, you could place the laser on a flat surface, such as a countertop, point it at a wall, mark that spot with, say, some painter's tape, pick the laser up, rotate it 45 degrees, set it back down, point it at the same spot on the wall, see if that's still hitting the tape, and then do another 45 degrees again, see if that laser beam is still hitting that same spot on the tape. And that way you can know it's calibrated and the laser is not pointing off in any direction.
And what
Neither of those are
happens when
calibrations.
digital
That's a
angle
test
finder,
to see if it needs
trajectory rod,
calibration.
and the laser aren't calibrated properly?
Well, you just can't be sure of your angles, right? So your angles are going to be off, and error rate is already brought into play when you're doing trajectory analysis. That's what's called a cone of error. And so you have a 5-degree cone of error for every trajectory analysis you do. And if your instruments aren't calibrated, then your error rate might actually be bigger than that initial 5 degrees.
In this specific case, were the trajectory rods, the digital angle finder, and the laser calibrated prior to conducting the trajectory analysis?
No, they were not.
What is the, if I mispronounce this, I apologize, the azimuth or horizontal angle calculated in this case?
So there's two angles that you're trying to find when you're doing trajectory analysis. One's a vertical angle, and that's the upward and downward angle. So if a bullet is traveling upward, then You're trying to determine at what degree and what angle it's traveling upward, or in this case, if it's traveling downward, you're trying to determine the degree of downward angle that it had before it impacted the door. Azimuth is the horizontal angle, so that's the left-right portion of the angle. And so we're trying to determine was the projectile going straight, slightly to the left, slightly to the right, and you would use a protractor to determine that.
And why is that important to do in trajectory analysis?
Well, because you want to get the whole picture, right? We're trying to recreate the scene and get the whole picture of what this bullet, how this bullet was acting when it impacted the surface of the door. So you want to just the vertical angle was determined in this case, but the azimuth was not. And so to get the whole picture, you always want to photograph what angle, left or right, the bullet was impacting the door, or if it just was going straight in.
And was that done on this case?
It was not.
You spoke about error rates. I think you said there's a 5-degree cone of error in trajectory analysis.
Yes.
For those of us who aren't ballistic people, what does that mean?
So because trajectory is not an exact science, you have to imply a cone of error to this. So a lot of times, and maybe you'll see this in this case, the laser was used, and the laser is pointing back to a specific area. And to the untrained eye, maybe that you might look at that and think, okay, the person must have been standing right there because that's where the laser is pointing. But really, because the bullet hole is bigger than the trajectory rod, it has a larger diameter, there's play with that rod. And so studies that have been done by other experts in the field have found that there's usually, during training classes, they've tested their students, and they find that there's usually about a 5-degree error just if everybody lines it up, the trajectory rod, that they line it up and center it as much as they possibly can and do it as perfectly as they can, they still find that there's a 5-degree of error. And that's with a straight rod that's been calibrated.
It's not a very precise science.
What you have to do to incorporate that the rod is straight is that there's little cones that you can kind of put in those holes and then put the rod through there, and that will help center that rod. But if the cones aren't placed in perfectly, then it can be off. And so what they found is that there's usually about a 5-degree range of error, and so they call it a cone of error, which would mean starting at the hole, it would go back kind of like a cone, and the further away you get from the object that was struck by the bullet, the bigger that cone of error becomes as it extrapolates out by 5 degrees. So
in a, for lack of a better term, a perfect scenario, there would be a 5-degree cone of error in trajectory analysis.
Right, and the point is that we're not saying a person was standing in a specific spot. We can't do that. We can't be that accurate. And so really what you need to do is give an area. We're trying to determine an actual area because the science isn't that precise. So the 5-degree cone gives you an area where a person may have been standing.
And such as in this case, when everything isn't calibrated and done correctly, does that mean the cone of error gets even bigger?
Yes. Yeah, in this case, the cone of error will be bigger, and that's also was determined by me because the angle finder was off by a whole degree on the same rod, and so we know that there's something going on either with the angle finder or the rod. On the inside, I believe it measured 7.8 degrees downward angle, and on the outside it was, I believe, 8.8 degrees, and I may have that backwards.
It's backwards.
But it was a full degree off, and so we know the tolerance of the angle finder is 0.1 degree, and so a full degree is out of calibration.
So in this case, what would the cone of error be? It's not 5%. What would it be?
It's really hard to say. I didn't have an opportunity to examine this door myself. It had been patched, and by the time I was involved, the door had been patched and the hole was patched, so I couldn't do my own. So it's hard to say without doing it myself what I would extrapolate out. I think a reasonable is 10 degrees of error. Just double that 5 degrees, just because we don't know. We know that something was out of calibration. We just don't know exactly how much. It could have been more or less than 1 degree.
And from your testimony, it's clear that, in your opinion, the trajectory analysis in this case wasn't done correctly.
Correct.
What is ejection pattern analysis?
Ejection pattern analysis. So Semi-automatic handguns are a type of handgun where they have an actuating top portion of the gun. This top portion, when the trigger is pulled, will move rearward under the pressures of the cartridge case and the bullet. An extractor will grab that side of that cartridge case head and it will pull it out. And as it pulls it out, there's a little extractor that will hit the bottom left side at like 7 o'clock on the cartridge case, and it will kick that cartridge case out of the firearm. About 80% of handguns will eject back into the right. Some handguns that are semi-automatic will have ejectors in different places. They'll have a firing pin that acts as an ejector, or the extractor will be at 12 o'clock, and so they may go straight up and back. But firearms that have an extractor at 3 o'clock and an ejector at 7 o'clock, most of the time will eject back into the right. And if you have the right substrate and the right surface, such as carpet or sand or grass, those cartridge cases will land and they will pretty much stay where they land. And so you can get an idea of where a shooter was standing within a scene if you've got, a couple of shots, say 3 or 4 or 5 cartridge cases that are all in one area. Then you can make a pretty good determination that, again, it's going to be an area, right? We can't be specific, but we're going to know that the shooter was probably standing in a certain area.
She's in custody.
Was ejection pattern analysis done by FDLE in this case on the Remington 380?
I don't believe it was done in this case by FDLE.
Now, the Remington 380 that I just spoke to you about, how does that firearm eject cartridge cases? Pretty much like every other one, or is it different?
Yeah, and that firearm had an extractor at 3 o'clock, an ejector at around 7 o'clock area, and so I would fully expect that to eject back into the right.
Did you do an ejection pattern analysis on this specific case, on this firearm?
I did not.
And why is that?
Well, for one, the location of the cartridge case, it was found on a countertop. I can't replicate that. I can't go to the scene and shoot live ammo, right, and try to replicate that with all the walls and countertops that are there.
Variables.
And it would be too costly to try and build that out and get exact measurements to do it at a different location. Secondly, the surface of the floor in this apartment or this domicile was tile. I don't think the cartridge case actually hit the floor, or else it probably wouldn't have ended up on the countertop. But with ejection pattern analysis, only soft surfaces can help with ejection pattern analysis. Hard surfaces, cartridge cases will actually bounce erratically, and they'll bounce left, they'll bounce right, and so they may initially go back into the right and then bounce back forward. On hard surfaces. So ejection pattern analysis pretty much goes out the window when you have a hard surface. But again, I just want to reiterate that in this case, the cartridge case was found on a countertop, so I can't be sure that it even hit the floor.
Since you did not do a ejection pattern analysis on the firearm in this specific case, can you still do a true shooting reconstruction?
Absolutely, yeah. I can look at the photos. A trajectory rod was placed into the door with a laser. There might be a bigger cone of error involved, but I still think it gives you a good idea of where the shooter was standing. I think the location of the physical evidence, the cartridge case, also helps determine that as well.
Gunnar, will we start the PowerPoint presentation?
Sure.
Oh, wow. What a way to spice up this witness's testimony, but with the PowerPoint. His whole purpose is to introduce doubt as to where she was standing. The prosecution has pretty much proven that she was right behind the door.
Mr. Wright,
they're trying to say she was back by the kitchen
cartridge case
counter.
Found?
It was found on the countertop in the kitchen.
Okay, and why is that important to you in your trajectory analysis and reconstruction of the scene?
Well, again, we have limitations within this dwelling, right? So the fact that the cartridge case is on the countertop can help me figure out where the shooter was standing, where Ms. Lorincz was standing in this scene.
Okay, considering where the cartridge casing was found, can you tell us where Ms. Lorincz was when she shot the firearm?
Yeah, it's my opinion that she was probably standing in front of that countertop, not in the kitchen, but yeah, maybe like in this photo here, near the table and chair. I would put her out.
Is that an air fryer?
As far as I feel comfortable extending her out away from the kitchen and towards the door would probably be about 10 feet ejection pattern, especially 380 auto 9mm. They can eject upwards of 10 to possibly 12 feet. And so I would suspect that she was standing in front of the kitchen by the table and chair when she fired.
If she was standing in front of the kitchen, close to the little table and chair area, how did the cartridge casing end up in the kitchen area?
I think the most likely scenario would be that it bounced off that painting or that wall.
You're talking about this painting right here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it would have likely bounced off that. It's hard to be 100% sure, but just knowing how cartridge cases act when they eject from a firearm, looking at the hole in the front door, and seeing that it doesn't have a lot of azimuth angle to it. It's pretty much, it looks like it went in at 90 degrees with a slightly downward angle. I think that she was probably facing that door, and so the cartridge case would have bounced or ejected back into the right and potentially off the wall onto the countertop is what I think would have happened.
And let's go to the next photo.
There's virtually no azimuth pointed at 90 degrees.
Right?
They've been harping on, you didn't measure this, it could have been at an angle. And then they say it wasn't at an angle.
Chair area that you said she was right next to or around?
Correct.
So would you say she was right around here or so?
Yeah, I would say that would make sense.
Based on where the cartridge casing was found in the kitchen area?
Correct.
Where was the bullet entrance located on the door?
I believe it was 4 feet 4 inches off the ground, and I think it was 9 7/8 inches from the open edge of the door.
Okay, I'm sorry, can you say that one more time?
Yeah, it was about 4 feet 4 inches from the ground, high on the door. And then I believe it was about 9 7/8 inches in from the edge of the door. That is the open edge when you open the door.
Okay. And the entrance and exit of the hole were both the same distance away from the edge of the door?
Yes, from what I could tell from the photos, they look to be good photos, taken correctly. They look like they're about the same. I mean, I could be off by maybe less than 1/8 of an inch, just because it's a photo, so I can't be exact. But that's what it looks like to me. Is they look like they're about the same distance away from the edge of the door.
And the exit hole was below the entrance hole?
The exit hole was about an 1/8 inch below the entrance hole, from what I could see in the photographs with the tape measure.
Is that significant to you?
No, that's not like a drastic downward angle. This hole is pretty round. It looks like it struck at about 90 degrees. Now, between 90 and 70 degrees, a hole is going to look round. It's not until you start getting at more acute angles that you really start seeing an oblong effect to a bullet hole. So this hole looks pretty round. So yeah, it looks like it went straight through.
And did the photographs look to be taken correctly?
Yes, for the most part, they're photographs when you're doing crime scene. You want to really get down at eye level to a defect and take that picture. You don't want to be standing over the picture and looking down or looking up or to the side. You really want to just get straight on and photograph at 90-degree angle. And I believe for the most part that was done in this case.
What are gunshot residues?
Gunshot residues are partially burned and unburned gunpowder particles and lead residue and soot that comes out the end of a firearm when it's fired. These residues, much like a flashlight, if you put a flashlight to a wall, against a wall, and start moving back, that diameter of that light will get bigger and less dense, and these powder particles act the same way at different distances. Up close, you'll see a lot of soot and powder. As you get further away, the soot and powder pattern will grow larger in diameter and less dense.
In this specific case, were there any close range gunshot residue drop-offs?
I didn't see any residues in the photos, and I didn't see anywhere in the crime scene notes or report where they were mentioned.
And there weren't any present on the door?
Not that I could see.
Okay, and what does that tell you?
So this is just a way to do distance determination. So we know that soot drops off at about 18 inches, and a powder pattern will drop off around 3 feet. And so really what these residues can do is give you a distance away from an object, a distance from the muzzle, which is the end of the firearm, to an object.
So that tells you that in this specific case that Miss Lorincz wasn't, based on what you've seen in the pictures, Miss Lorincz wasn't close to the door when she fired. Right,
and I wouldn't expect, just to clarify, a lot of powder to stick to a non-porous surface like this door, but soot would definitely be present if it was close. But powder may have a harder time sticking to the door. But again, if she was 3 feet from the door, the cartridge case wouldn't have landed on the countertop.
Were you able to do trajectory analysis on the bullet defect in the front door by looking at photographs?
Yes.
And how did you do that?
Copious photos were taken with a trajectory rod, with a laser on it, with measurements. So I can look at all of those, and it helps me get an idea of the angle that was the bullet was traveling when it struck the door.
Okay, and can you explain what this is, the photo that the jury is looking at currently?
Yes. So you're looking at the edge of the door. The door has been open, and you're looking at the edge. This is a trajectory rod that has been stuck through the hole that was produced by the bullet, and on either side of the door there, you have 2 black cones that helps to center that rod within that hole. And again, there's an error rate with that, right? We can't be sure that's perfectly centered, but those cones will help you. Otherwise, you have a rod just in a loose hole that will be way off and way out of whack. So those cones help center that rod, and what it does is it helps give us a visual of how much of a downward angle that bullet was traveling when it struck that door.
And where would it seem the bullet traveled from?
So the door was closed at the time of the shooting, and so the door, when you look back to where that bullet came from, it came from the kitchen area or that table and chair area.
And why didn't you look at the door yourself?
By the time I was involved in this case, the hole had been patched, and I believe the door had even been replaced.
Okay, and what is your opinion regarding where Miss Lorincz was when she fired
the big one.
firearm?
Well, my opinion is I can't confirm I can't deny her story that she was by the table. I think the location of the cartridge case is consistent with that. I think the trajectory of the projectile through the door is also consistent with her being in front, facing that door. I think that the cartridge case limits how far or how close that door she was
over her head.
And so I would agree that she was probably back somewhere by the table and chairs. I think that's the correct area.
She's wearing a bulletproof vest.
From the door?
Yes.
Or from the kitchen?
And Crocs.
I believe that's, it looks to be over 10 feet from the door. So she was probably, looks like close to 15 feet, 12 to 15 feet.
Now she cannot take the stand.
With what she told law enforcement.
If she takes the stand, they're going to have her recreate that, and she won't hold the gun like this.
Have you also taken a look at different pictures in regard to this case that were taken by CSI?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Have you taken a look at the picture of a wound on the deceased's hand, right hand?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And based on your education, training, and experience, was that wound caused by the projectile?
I can't say specifically it was caused by the projectile. I believe that wound occurred during this incident, and I believe
Objection, Your Honor, speculation outside the scope of expertise.
That's sustained.
The wound on her hand?
Are all of your opinions that you have shared with the jury today within a reasonable degree of firearm identification, crime scene, and shooting reconstruction and ballistics in general?
Yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Cross-examination, please.
Yes, sir.
I don't know. This is probably one of the least expert witnesses I've heard from ever. He's got the resume. The terminology isn't there. The explanation level is shallow.
Or if I could see the TV screen again.
Are you ready?
Yes, Your Honor.
And the whole calibration thing, that's a testing, that's not calibration.
Good morning, Mr. Wright. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good.
That's the screen.
So just to understand the basic principle of your opinion, is that your opinion is the defendant fired this weapon closer to the kitchen table in her residence, correct?
I believe she was closer to the kitchen area and that table than she was to the door, correct?
Would you agree with the general principle, based on your analysis in this case, that the farther back the defendant was from her front door,
The higher the gun would have to be.
the higher the gun would be, correct?
Well, it just depends on the trajectory and that cone of error. But yeah, the further, if you really back extrapolate, that cone doesn't just rise, but it also goes down and to the side. So it's going to have to be a pretty far way back to get outside that cone of error.
Correct. But you would agree generally that in that diagram you just saw, the defendant's firearm was up here, correct?
Yeah, and the last one, yeah, I believe she told the person who made that diagram that that's how she was holding the firearm.
And then, but you would agree, so the closer the defendant came to the door, the lower the fire would be, correct?
Correct.
Now, Mr. Wright, I'm going to go over some questions for you. Show you states 49 here. Would you agree that, based on your analysis, the defendant did not fire from back here in this hallway area?
Correct. I would agree with that.
You would agree that the defendant did not fire from behind this kitchen counter at all? You would agree with that?
I would agree with that.
It's your opinion that the defendant fired from somewhere, I guess, like around here, or maybe even further back towards the kitchen?
Right. I can't be exact, but I think she was far enough back that that cartridge case would have landed on the countertop.
And you would agree that that's your opinion, but you did not visit the scene in this case, correct?
I did not.
You would agree that you did not inspect the gun used in this case, correct?
I did not.
And you would agree that you've never even fired the Remington 380 model that was used in this case, correct?
I do not believe I've ever fired an RM 380 now.
And you would agree that you did not inspect the shell casing in this case?
I did not.
And you would agree that you did not do any testing of the physical evidence in this case?
Yeah, I didn't examine any evidence in this case, except for the photographs and the visualizations I was given and the reports.
And you make a statement about there being an angle difference, and you say that angle difference raised some concern in your mind, correct?
That's correct.
But there was a projectile fired from the gun, correct?
That's correct.
And that projectile is metal and it's going through a metal door, correct?
That is correct.
So there would be some damage caused on the metal door by another piece of metal going through it at a pretty high speed, correct?
You mean like a hole?
Correct.
Yes.
And then the edges of that hole could have different bends, angles, correct?
You mean as they peel out away?
Correct.
Sure.
Okay. And that could affect the angle?
Of the bullet?
Of the angle finding that was done in this case, of the trajectory.
Well, that's why you use the cones. The cones help to center that rod, so the rod shouldn't be touching any of those little bends of metal.
And the cones were used in this case, correct?
The cones were used to center that rod, yes.
Now, you talk about the shell casing, specifically this shell casing in States 48, and you would agree that the location of this shell casing was a factor in your opinion of determining the defendant's location in the house when she shot?
Yes, I think it binds her closer to the kitchen.
So this is a very important factor in your decision.
Yeah, physical evidence is always going to be important consideration.
And you talked a little about ejection pattern analysis, and you didn't do an ejection pattern analysis, did you?
No, ejection pattern analysis was not done in this case.
And this type of testing, I know you mentioned stuff about hard surfaces, but this type of testing can be helpful in determining where a person fired a gun from, correct?
It can if you have carpet or sand, or if it's an outside scene, sand and grass. Inside, it would need to be carpet.
And generally, firing a gun, doing ejection pattern analysis would at least help you determine how far a casing would even eject from a firearm, correct?
Sure, but I've fired hundreds of firearms. I've done ejection pattern analysis hundreds of times. I'm pretty familiar with how the limitations of that caliber, which is 380 auto. You're not going to see a 380 a pistol extract and eject a cartridge case and throw it 20 feet. So there's going to be a range. Usually it's around 10 to 12 feet at the most.
Excuse me. Just answer exactly the question as asked, okay? Next question, please.
Now, sir,
Judge
you could
objects.
have a ejection from a 380 pistol in this case. That would be less than 10 to 12 feet, correct?
Correct.
It could be even 3 feet, correct?
Correct.
And you have no idea what the ejection pattern is for this Remington 380 because you never even fired one before, correct?
All I know is that it ejects back into the right.
Thank you. Now, it's your opinion that
The judge isn't buying this.
the defendant fired from somewhere around here, correct?
Correct.
Maybe from further back. And then you say that this shell casing from this Remington 380 firearm, which you don't even know how far it even ejects from this firearm, goes back and either hits this wall or hits this painting. The canvas would be softer than drywall, correct?
I would assume so, yes.
So then it hits this somewhere over here, and then somehow does not bounce straight and to the right, and then somehow goes back into the kitchen, and then takes a hard right-hand turn, and then somehow ducks underneath this cabinet right here, and goes just far enough back to avoid this lower part of the cabinet right here, and then somehow avoids this tall red spray can, and then avoids this blue can right here,
Crushed pineapple.
and hits a very hard surface, correct?
Correct.
And just lays flat right there by the onion. So that's what you want the jury to do.
Just waits there by the onion.
Well, I think that's the best possible scenario. I don't know how else the cartridge case makes it up onto the countertop. So assuming that cartridge case landed there after being ejected from the firearm, I think
they're going to ask
she has to be close enough to the kitchen for it to get there. Exactly the path it takes, I can't be 100% positive. All I can say is that that we know there was no intervening object between her and the door. So she didn't fire through the cabinets, right? She wasn't in the kitchen firing through the cabinets whenever that cartridge case ejects out.
The witness to
Yes, sir. Just make sure you listen carefully to the question, then just answer the question as asked, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
So you would agree that it's very hard to tell exactly where a gun was fired just looking at shell casings, correct?
I think it gives you an idea, but it's not an exact science.
And it's important to consider the circumstances around the shooting when trying to determine where a gun was fired, correct?
Such as?
Just the circumstance of the shooting, like, try to gather the information of the crime scene, correct? Try to gather the information.
You mean the trajectory?
Trajectory, just the evidence of the crime scene, or any evidence of the crime scene that you can have or review, correct?
Yeah, all physical evidence should be looked at within the crime scene, at every crime scene.
And you believe it's important to explore different possibilities of how a casing may have ended up where it did, correct?
Absolutely.
All right. And you never looked into the possibility that the defendant could have picked up the shell casing and put it on the table, correct?
Correct. I never read anywhere that was done by the defendant or by crime scene or officers at the scene. Nobody mentioned picking up the cartridge case and placing it on the counter. That would be abnormal for any of those people to do that. I've never seen law enforcement or crime scene move
Your Honor,
evidence
I would
around.
instruct the witness to be
I think he's trying to answer your question.
Okay. Now, Mr. Wright,
He's never seen
you believe
law enforcement or the
in
witness or the defendant move things around?
kind of either back here, further back, when she fired the gun, correct?
I cannot deny that she may have been in that area.
And the defendant about 5 feet, 5 inches tall, you believe?
I believe so, yeah.
And so the bullet hole in the door was about 13, and the interior side of the door was about 13 inches below the top of the defendant's head, then, correct?
Yeah, I think I had 11 inches.
You sure about that?
I believe I measured the hole in the photos was at 4 feet 4 inches, and she's 5 feet 5 inches.
5 feet 5 inches?
Yeah.
So that's about...
Yeah, foot and 1 inch. Yeah, 13 inches.
13 inches, okay. So if the gun barrel is about 13 inches below someone's head, it would kind of put the gun kind of in the middle or top of their chest area, correct?
If they're standing right up next to the door, yes.
And again, we went back to the principle that we talked about at the beginning, where the closer the defendant is to the door, the lower the gun would be, based on even your analysis of the scene, correct?
Correct. As you just mentioned, if she was right at the door, it would be 13 inches below the top of the head. So.
And you would agree that gunshot residue cannot always be seen with the naked eye, correct?
There's chemicals that are used to help develop the lead that turns it purple, such as sodium uridizinate, that can help you view the gunpowder. Yes.
So your answer would be yes, you cannot always view it with the naked eye, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree that it's possible that faint gunshot residues could be hidden even on white doors, correct?
Possibly, yes.
And I believe you said the drop-off rate for soot, which is important for this type of door, correct?
Correct.
Is about, 18 inches.
Correct.
Right. So the defendant could have been 2 feet or even a little less than 2 feet from the door.
He has to say yes.
And no gunshot residue could have been, no gunshot soot could have been found on the door, correct?
Correct, which is why you have to use other physical evidence to help determine where she was.
And then, so if the defendant is back here, or further back, when she fired the pistol, then I think from that diagram, the gun would probably have been above her eyes, correct?
It just depends on the cone of error. Again, we have an error rate here. We know something was out of calibration, which makes the cone of error 10 degrees. So I'm not sure how she was holding the gun. I just know that being back by the table, she would be within that cone.
And you agree that there's no obstacle, no big piece of furniture, anything like that between the defendant and the door that she would have to shoot over, correct?
Correct.
And you're familiar with sights on a gun?
I am.
And sights on a gun are usually designed to be kind of at eye level.
If you're going to use the sights, then yes, you'd put them at eye level.
And not above your head, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Wright, you're being paid for your work in this case, correct?
Of course, yes.
About $250 an hour?
That's correct.
And how many hours are you at right now?
I believe I'm right around 32 hours.
Thank you so much. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Any redirect?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Mr. Wright,
We'll talk about this in just a minute.
firearms have you fired in your career?
Probably thousands.
How many times do you think?
How many times have I fired those thousands of firearms?
Yes.
Tens of thousands.
How many different firearms have you fired in order to do an ejection pattern analysis?
Hundreds.
How many times have you done in your work ejection pattern analysis?
Just through training and through cases. I've I've probably done, over 100, 200. It's hard to say.
Mr. Smith, the prosecutor asked you if you had ever done or fired a Remington 380, and I believe your answer was no, right?
Correct.
Based on your education, your training, and experience, would you expect doing an ejection pattern analysis on a Remington 380 to be any different than the other thousands that you've done?
I do not.
And why is that?
Because the extractor and ejector are in the same location as most semi-automatic firearms, which is at 3 o'clock and around 7 o'clock, and they eject back into the right.
So does it, in your opinion, expert opinion, does it matter whether you have done an ejection pattern analysis on a Remington 380 and doing the analysis in this specific case?
No, it doesn't. I would expect it to eject back into the right.
Let's look at this photo. That Steve was asking questions about. Now, that green laser, what is it?
That's showing you where the trajectory rod is pointing where the bullet came from. It's giving a specific line of sight.
And by the trajectory, where's the trajectory rod?
It's in the door. It's the yellow line there.
And is this the trajectory rod that was not calibrated?
That's correct.
And is that the laser that was not calibrated?
That's correct.
And the fact that the laser wasn't calibrated and the rod wasn't calibrated as well, what does that tell you in regard to how deep or how reliable this analysis is?
Well, it could be off again by 5-10 degrees. So it's pointing, it's giving you a very specific area in which the bullet traveled from with that green line. Again, it's kind of a bad visual because what you really need to do is use a cone of error to give an area. And so if you had a cone going out from that laser up and down, then it would easily incorporate somebody standing by there, and it wouldn't, look like you'd have to be, 7 feet tall to have shot a bullet from back there. The fact that it could be out of calibration, if then there's just a chance that it's pointing way higher than it should be, and it could be more level. We just don't know because they weren't calibrated.
And you're supposed to calibrate it before each and every single case, right? Before any analysis that you do.
Yeah, so what I would do is, working at the lab, then we would probably calibrate quarterly, and then I would also calibrate again right before I use it.
And this is when you were working at Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
Correct.
And that standard operating procedure you had done as well in private practice?
Yes.
What have you gone over in regard to this case?
I've gone over the crime scene tech report, their photos, the video, the medical examiner's report, photos, deposition transcript, multiple law enforcement officers' narratives, multiple transcripts from Susan Lorincz herself and neighbors. I believe that was it.
In everything that you've gone over, has there been any mention at all that the the casing that was found on the kitchen counter was ever moved by anyone?
There was no mention of that, so it's not something that I can just assume happened.
Okay. Mr. Smith was asking you questions in regard to all the quote-unquote obstacles the casing had to go through in order to be found where it was found. Based on your education, training, and experience, is there any other way that, besides it being that casing could have been found where it was eventually found?
For me, it's the most likely way. Could there be another way? I don't know if I can rule out every possibility just because I don't know all the possibilities. I know there's a lot of stuff on that countertop. Could the cartridge case may have gone more back than to the right and somehow bounced under the countertop and then over that stuff? Possibly. That could have happened. That still puts her in the same position that I put her in. It still binds her to that near closer to that kitchen than the door.
How does it bind Trinier?
Because of the limitations of the ejection of the cartridge case. Again, if she's all the way up by the door, say 2 feet from the door, a cartridge case couldn't possibly eject over 20 feet and then land, not only make it 20 feet, but then also land 3 feet off the ground at 20 feet, assuming that it would have gone even further had there been no obstacles. So I've never seen a handgun eject that distance.
How many trajectory analysis have you done in total in your career?
During my deposition, I think I said 50, which was a grossly understated amount. I'm probably closer to about 150 trajectory analysis, just through cases that haven't gone to trial. But I've probably testified on, probably close to 40 cases of trajectory analysis.
Mr. Smith was asking you about GSR possibly not seen by the naked eye. How frequently does that happen, that you can't see GSR?
Not super frequent. When I did more distance determination, we would do it on close. Really, on crime scenes, when if you want to determine if a bullet passed or something, then you would do sodium redizinate, and you would get a lead ring around a purple ring around the bullet hole, and you're just trying to confirm that that hole was caused by a bullet. You can also spray for residues on that as well. But normally you're going to see residues. If residues were deposited on an item, it's rare to be just at that distance where it is just barely there and you don't see it.
And from the pictures, what color was that door?
It was white.
In your training experience and with your education, would the color of that door, if she would have been close enough to have gunshot residue on it, would you have seen it in the pictures?
It would have definitely been easier to see residues on a white door than say, a brown door or a darker color.
And going through all the police reports and all the depositions that you have reviewed, is there any mention of any gunshot residue being found on that door?
No, there isn't.
And since with your eye, with the pictures, you can't see any gunshot residue, and because there is no evidence of gunshot residue ever being found on that door, what does that tell you?
That she was likely not within range to deposit gunshot residue on that door.
And what is that range again?
For soot, it would be around 18 inches, and with powder drops off, powder pattern drops off at 3 feet, powder drops off altogether around 5 feet. But again, powder is not going to readily stick to a non-porous surface.
And all of that gunshot residue, etc., not being found on that door is consistent with her being close to that little table area and chairs, right?
Yes, I can't deny her version of the events that she was back by the table. I think the cartridge case location supports that. And the fact that there are no residues also supports that.
Based on your
I'm not
analysis,
convinced by this witness.
Is it possible that when Ms. Lorincz shot her that it was over her head like this?
I mean, I can't refute that. I don't know if she has training in firearms, if she knows how to shoot the guns, how scared somebody is can affect how they hold a gun. So that's not something that I would opine on is how somebody was holding the gun when they shot. I wasn't there. I couldn't tell you.
But based on your training and experience in trajectory analysis, is that possible?
Hold on 1 second. He just said he didn't have an opinion on it, so you can't ask him the same question.
Oh, judge is cracking down on this. He's objecting for the state, which is bizarre. This is weird. The state is...
Are all of the opinions that you have shared with the jury in court today within a reasonable degree of firearm identification, crime scene and shooting, reconstruction, and ballistics in general certainty?
Yes.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, sir. Any additional questions?
No, Your Honor.
Is he excused?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You too.
Okay.
We'll take a short break. 10 minutes or less. All right, thank you.
Why do we have that? That question was asked a million times. Why do we have that witness telling us about the case? Well, they're just like iris down to next to nothing. You can barely see anything. Why do we have that witness tell us about the case?
All right, the door is closed. The jury's out of the courtroom. Who's got the next witness? Is it an expert? Please make sure you let him know that listening carefully to the question on both sides and just answer the questions that are asked. I don't allow people to just give their opinions on things that are outside of the question. So I don't want to have to admonish in the middle. So I think it's better to let them know, hey, listening carefully to the question, answer the questions that's asked. It's not a opportunity to give whatever you want to say. It's a question and answer period. Okay.
Here's what we know.
I do the video so I make sure no one doesn't accidentally put something up there.
Yes, sir. And I didn't mean to activate. I didn't realize I was just trying to go back.
Yeah, I know. The problem is that the screen literally puts whatever's on your computer. So if you're not ready, whatever's on your computer is going to be in the whole courtroom. So that's the problem.
So no surfing the web.
Okay, I'm just letting you know how this thing works. It's not like basically it's just another computer. So if you get messages, whatever, on that screen, it's going to pop up there. It's like for all the world to see.
For all the world to see. That's the last thing we need.
All right, thank you. So we'll be taking a short recess.
All right, so while they're at recess, this witness was brought in to say that the defendant's story that she told the police was plausible because a lot of the evidence that we're seeing on the scene calls into question, especially where she was standing. We know that the time. Turn this off. It's just loud. We know that the time frame that she gave the police was not accurate. We know that she was off by 10, 15 minutes in her recreation of the events as she laid it out. She inserted in what ended up being like a 30-second time period, an entire conversation and things she was doing in the house that the video evidence just shows couldn't happen in that time frame. So they brought this witness in to give her credibility as to part of her story. And part of her story was that she shot from back by the kitchen table. Well, the problem is the trajectory rod. Okay, yes, you've got possible calibration issues, not proven. We know that there was a proven 1 degree angle of error when we measure the trajectory rod from the front of the door and the back of the door. I guess it was back in the front. The laser, it shoots up towards the ceiling. Okay, and so he's trying to say in this cone, you can actually lower the bottom of the cone goes down further, and she could actually be down there by the table and get through the door and still have that work. The problem is the hole on the back of the door is higher than the hole on the front of the door. And yes, it could ricochet and do weird things as it goes through the door. But generally, close range like that, initial bullet, not warped, that it's going to follow it will follow its straight path, especially going through a little aluminum frame door like that, or I don't know, it might have been steel. But still, it's going to follow that path. It's not going to hit that first object and drastically change angle. Especially on that type of door. There's no way. And so you look at this and it shows, the state's evidence shows that she was up close near the door. Not a factor. Okay, we know she shot. We know who she hit. We know that person was killed. AJ was killed. It's just her credibility that they're trying to save here. And unfortunately, this expert witness they brought in for it was not the guy to do that. If anyone knows anything about scientific tools and measurement and calibration, and I'm not a scientist. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand this. You know that if you're calibrating something, you calibrate it against a known truth, right? If you want to make sure something's in square, you have a reference to put it on. You've got a frame that's like, this is my truth. This is my 90-degree angle, and I can put something up against it and prove that yes, it is 90 because I know this is 90, and now I'll check up against it. You don't just set it on a countertop and turn it a little bit and put some tape on the wall. Yes, you might be able to do that in the field and figure out that hey, something's wrong with his laser. It's not shooting straight. calibration has to do with measurement, adjustment, remeasurement until it's true. And him using the word calibration is like, you keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it does. But so I don't know. It depends what the jury says. It doesn't change the facts of the case. I mean, everyone knows that she shot. They're not saying that she didn't shoot. But it does go to just show that I think another piece of the story, as it was told by the defendant, is just not adding up to the evidence. And the whole bullet, the casing, ejected off the wall, back, and then landed tucked in. Man, I've shot a lot of bullets as well, not in kitchens and not in houses, but around hard surfaces and tables, shooting benches that are hard benches. And yes, casings could do some weird things, but generally not like that. I would say what they should have done and what the state should have done if they had this casing is they should have fingerprinted it. They normally don't fingerprint a casing at a crime scene. They say, why? Well, when you shoot the firearm, it gets very hot, and it can often burn off any oils or residue that your fingerprint might have left on that bullet when it was loaded into the gun or into the magazine. Well, if you pick it up afterwards, guess what? It picks up residue from your fingertips really well. And if they had checked that and said, wow, it's got two nice solid fingerprints on here, this would indicate that this was picked up after it was shot, and it would have fingerprints of who did it. So I think the state missed a couple opportunities there to really get that witness to admit. I think they could have really forced him to admit that she could have picked it up and moved it. Instead, they sort of hedged around it and brought it up. He's like, well, probably not. I've never seen that happen before. They should have gone for it, because I don't think the judge was buying it. I think he would have allowed them to sort of go for the jugular on that one. Valerie, you might go to the courthouse. I think the defense might rest today. It depends how many witnesses they actually call. They had 12 on their list, and we've had 2 down. So a lot of times they'll have more people on the list than they actually call. Everyone's young, yes. Everyone's young and inexperienced. I don't know why. It's something about Florida, but this is probably the youngest overall batch of witnesses, police officers, crime scene techs that we've seen in a case. It's like the whole thing's like Dookie Hazard CSI edition. Not Dookie Hazard, Dougie. I mixed up my shows. The Young Doctor. Who's that guy? Doogie. Brain not working. You guys fill me in. Doogie Howser. There it is. Hazard was like Dukes of Hazzard. I mixed the two up. Dougie. Says Thal. Yes, that one's going to live forever. It's sort of like Dukes of Hazzard. That's the car. That's the car one with the little. Isn't that Kit? No, that's. Man, I didn't watch enough TV as a kid. I just remember like Airwolf and Doug the Hoosier. Okay. I messed up all my TV show references. Kit is Knight Rider. General Lee, that's the orange one. Okay. All right. So I'm. All right. Let's see. Rosebud says, how come you don't put what case is about in description anymore? Mostly I was just lazy, Rosebud. It's been a long, busy day with case after case after case. It's my fault. I apologize. And I can never spell Sarah's last name. When I go to do it, I can't remember how it starts with an L, but Lanzier, I don't know. The defendant is, somebody help me out with that. Maybe I'll add it to the list. All right. We are following this case this morning. We're going to be back with Robert Tellis this afternoon because Susan, not Sarah. See, that's why I don't do it. It's Susan. Susan Lanzer. I'm so tired. Yesterday was such a long day. It was like 12 hours of streaming. Clearly, RA was outside playing instead of watching TV back in the day. Yes, I did a lot. We didn't have a TV growing up. We didn't. Need some Mountain Dew. There's some in the fridge. It's chilling, but I'm trying to be good. What did the family do all day? I think they went to an aquarium or something, or either a science museum or an aquarium. Did they rest? They have not rested. We're still in defense case. We've only had 2 of their witnesses, one yesterday, one today. Are the sleepers still outside the window? They're going to get sunburned if they are. Let me check. Yes, they are. Are there 3 people there now? Is that 3 or 2? I sort of want to keep an eye on these folks. It sort of looks like there are 3 people, but maybe that's an arm. Let me look on the big screen. Oh, no, okay. She is on his right arm, sort of like cuddling, and his hand is on her shoulder. So it's still just 2 people. And 2 bikes. I think they're like sleeping on their bikes. I wish let's see, they've moved a little bit. I'm looking for breath. I think they're breathing. Okay, hang on one second.
Call from
Thal.
Thal, what's up, my friend?
Why are we homeless people watching?
Terpstra.
Hang on. They're just enjoying the park. Court's back, Thal. You called perfect timing.
Oh.
ERP.
All right, sorry. Bye.
Bye.
RA. Terpstra.
I'm intrigued. Maybe we can do a picture-in-picture and get.
The testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, help you God?
Yes.
Looks like another expert. Well, they spent the big bucks on this. See if he does a little better.
Morning.
Morning.
Can you introduce yourself to the jury?
Yeah, my name is Toby Terpstra.
Can you spell your last name for us?
You bet. Terpstra.
And what do you do for a living?
I'm a 3D forensic analyst.
And what is a 3D forensic analyst?
Yeah, so I work on a large variety of cases, but like a 3D forensic analyst, in general, they're analyzing environments in 3D and objects that are within the 3D environment and the relationships between those.
Can you give me an example of that?
Sure. So could be the measurements. So if this is our 3D environment, it could be the distance or average distance to the jury from, say, a monitor in this 3D environment. That distance might be important. Or I work on a lot of vehicle accident reconstruction cases, and from that standpoint, the positions of, say, like a vehicle over time could give us speeds for that vehicle. So a lot of different applications, really.
And do you work doing photogrammetry?
Yes.
Can you tell the jury what that is?
Yeah, photogrammetry is really the art and science of being able to take reliable measurements from 2-dimensional media. So whether that's a photograph or a video. So photographs and videos are often taken, maybe recording an event as it's occurring, or photographs afterwards of the event, right? And I guess simply put, or the way I like to describe it, is you can take that 2-dimensional media and reassociate it to the 3-dimensional environment, and that's what we call camera matching photogrammetry. And then from that standpoint, you can begin taking measurements of physical evidence that was captured or documented by the video or the photograph.
And I think before that you mentioned 3D site reconstruction or accident reconstruction. What is that?
Yeah, so one of my areas of expertise really is 3D site reconstruction, and that involves creating an environment that's accurate based dimensionally on the location of elements or objects where they were when an incident occurred. So we're reconstructing that site and knowing exactly where different objects were in that environment. Oftentimes things change over time and they're no longer available for physical inspection. But if they're recorded again on that photograph or video, we can reconstruct the scene based on the original locations.
And do 3D forensic analysts do 3D visualizations?
Yeah, I do 3D visualizations as well. Yep.
And what is a 3D visualization?
So it's kind of a broad term, and it could encompass a lot of different things. It could be anything from just a two-dimensional graphic of a 3D model, right? Or it could encompass an interactive 3D environment, such as virtual reality or something like that. I would say in this case, a 3D visualization is more a reenactment of events as they occurred.
Is that kind of like a simulation, a computer simulation?
It could be. It could be also different from a simulation.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long have you been working in your industry?
So about 20 years.
And what position do you currently hold?
So I'm a senior forensic visualization analyst, 3. Don't ask me what the 3 means. I don't know.
And what are your duties there?
I'm sorry?
What are your duties there?
The third guy.
I'm responsible for helping to oversee our visualization department, guiding, directing, hiring, and then I do a lot of work with other experts. So ballistic experts, fire and cause origin experts, biomechanics, a lot of other people. As you can imagine, photogrammetry, which I was just describing, there's so much that's captured on video and photograph these days that it applies to a wide variety of disciplines. So I work with a lot of different experts trying to figure out and provide good information based on photographs and video.
What's your educational background?
Yeah, so in 2001, I received an Associate's of Applied Science from Westwood College of Technology in Visual Communication.
Do you hold any professional certifications?
Yes.
What?
So I have a Part 107 remote pilot license through the
He
FAA,
flies
or the
drones.
Federal Aviation Administration. I'm also a certified forensic video technician through LEVA, which is the Law Enforcement and Emergency Services Video Association.
And are there requirements to keep those certifications current?
Yes.
What are those?
So the FAA requires a recurrent test every couple of years for the remote pilot license, and then LEVA requires that I show 80 hours every 3 years of continued education in related fields. So,
Are you a member of any professional affiliations?
Yes.
What are those, briefly?
So I regularly contribute to a lot of different organizations, attending conferences, and then presenting, publishing, reviewing manuscripts, as well as working to develop standards in different organizations. Some of those are the Society of Automotive Engineers, or SAE. I've been a member there since 2011. Also a member of IAFSM, the International Association of Forensic Security and Metrology, ASPRS, the American Society of Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing, ACER, ACSR, the Association of Crime Scene Reconstructionists, and then more recently I've been serving with OSAC, which is the Organization of Scientific Area Committees. It's actually administered through NIST, National Institute of Standards and Technology. And then I work, sorry for all the acronyms, I work for, I'm part of a subcommittee, so it's the Crime Scene Investigation and Reconstruction Subcommittee through OSAC, and then the Forensic Metrology Task Group. And one of the standards we're working on right now is developing a standard for the capture and processing of terrestrial LiDAR data.
So you mentioned, I think, teaching classes or being involved in the teaching of some
Yeah,
of these
I'm an instructor as well, yes.
Okay. What classes do you teach?
So I teach a couple of classes that are once a year or a couple times a year. One of those is through SAE, again, the Society of Automotive Engineers, and that one is ACTAR accredited. It is photogrammetry and digital media analysis. I've been teaching that one since 2017, so about 8 years. I also teach a basic laser scanning certification course through IAFSM, and then just this year, I taught a class that was also ACTAR certified for the International Forensic Photography Symposium, and that was on selecting imagery for camera matching photogrammetry.
Oh, you weren't getting lots of acronyms.
My apologies.
Have you authored any technical peer-reviewed publications?
Yes.
About how many?
About 20.
And in what areas were those publications?
Yeah, so really photogrammetry, video analysis, 3D site reconstruction, and 3D visualization.
Have you been allowed to offer opinions in a court of law before?
Yes,
Approximately how many times?
5,
And were those appearances in civil or criminal courts?
both.
And what subjects have you provided opinion testimony in court before?
Really the same. So again, photogrammetry, video analysis, 3D site reconstruction, and visualization.
Your Honor, I would ask that Mr. Terpstra be able to offer opinions in the area of photogrammetry, 3D analysis, and 3D visualization.
Any objection before Dyer?
No, Your Honor.
I'll allow him to testify and form an opinion in those fields.
As long as he just listens to the question.
Defense counsel in this case.
It was October, I believe, 17th of 2023.
And do you work for free?
No.
What's your hourly rate?
Do you work for
It's 280.
And what were you asked to do in this case?
So in this case, I was asked to reconstruct the environment, again, including objects within the environment, and create 3D diagrams of the environment as it existed when the incident occurred. I also created visualization that includes a reenactment based on Ms. Lawrence's recollection of events.
And what case materials were provided to you?
So a lot of different case materials. I guess some of those include crime scene photographs, the crime scene report, photographs from the autopsy, as well as radiology images from the autopsy report, interviews, 911 call transcripts, depositions.
Specifically, were you given transcripts or videos of Ms. Lawrence's statements to law enforcement?
Yes.
And you said that you made a reenactment and you also recreated the scene, is that right?
Yeah, so we did a reconstruction of the scene and we also created a reenactment. Yes.
What did you have to do? What steps did you have to do to get there? Like,
they hire actors?
Overview.
Sure. So I started by reviewing some of those provided documents and then gathering some imagery myself, so publicly available aerial imagery. I also went to the scene and I met with Ms. Lorincz. I photographed and recorded LiDAR data of both the scene and of Ms. Lorincz. I then worked in a computer software, various computer software, to process that data, including camera matching photogrammetry, and create an accurate three-dimensional model with diagrams of the environment, including the physical evidence at the scene. And then incorporating all of that, I created a 3D visualization, again, based on Ms. Lawrence's recollection of events from that day.
Did you also prepare a PowerPoint presentation?
I did.
Would the PowerPoint presentation assist you in explaining to the jury some of the work you did in this case?
Probably
yes.
Your Honor, may I publish the PowerPoint?
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor.
You ready to go?
It is.
Use ChatGPT to create a PowerPoint.
All right. So what is this?
So as I was referring to earlier, this is one of the aerial images I gathered. So this is from Nearmap, which is just publicly available aerial data. This is from November 5th, 2023. It shows the residence where the incident occurred from an aerial view. You can see it labeled there on kind of the bottom left with the address 1662.
And this?
This is a street view image from, this is Google Street View, if you're familiar. You can see the residence essentially centered in this image.
How about this?
This is just a closer in view of that same image from Google Street View. This was recorded in May of 2023.
Now, you mentioned that you reviewed police photographs. Is that what's coming, or is that next in the
Yes.
PowerPoint? Okay.
Yeah, the provided photographs were from the police in this instance. So these photographs show the residents on the night of the incident, so the night that it occurred. You can see their photographs taken from various angles walking through the scene. This is Unit 3, and then you can see the doorway there to the residence at Unit 3.
With the new
that
peephole.
is a bullet hole or a bullet defect on the exterior of the door. Here you can see that's been marked with an evidence label A for the exit of that bullet through the exterior of the door, and B for the entrance through the interior of the door. This is a photograph taken essentially from the front door looking towards the interior of Miss Lawrence's residence, towards the kitchen.
And is that still one of the police photos?
Yes,
They're still on these?
that's correct. This is a photograph of the kitchen. We're kind of rotating around back towards the front door a little bit. On the countertop there, you can see there is a cartridge case marked with evidence placard number 1.
And that's a closer, is this a closer up shot?
Yes.
And what is this?
So this is a trajectory rod or a protrusion rod with centering cones that was placed in the door. So this is the same entrance and exit A and B that were marked in previous photographs. Now it has a trajectory rod in yellow there going through the door.
What is this?
This is a photograph of the inside of, again, the police photograph or a crime scene photograph, interior of Miss Lawrence's residence, that same yellow trajectory rod through the door, and now you see a laser trajectory has been, sorry, is there water? Can I grab a water from anybody? Apologize.
$280 an hour. You
so
didn't bring your own
the
water?
laser has been added to the end of the trajectory rod, and so you can see it's, thank you, photographed there with a green laser in the environment.
Is that another photo of the...
Here's the laser hitting the
Yeah,
ceiling.
so this is another photograph of that same laser. This one you can see the laser terminates on a wall above the cabinets there. Those are the kitchen cabinets.
Is this documentation that you received from the police?
Yeah, so this is a crime scene report. And there's a notation there. I'm just noting that they had documented 2 different angles with the laser or the inclinometer. The laser angle finder that they used was recorded at 7.8 and 8.8, so 2 different angular measurements.
What is this?
So this is photographs of the same. So here you can see 8.8 degrees measured vertically on the interior of the door, and 7.8 on the exterior of the door. This is the front door and the door frame, including some damage, I think, in the second photograph here, to the door frame. For clarity, my understanding is that some of this damage was existing prior to the incident or prior to that evening.
Is that another photo of the pre-existing damage?
Yeah, so here you see the latch plates. It's a little bit closer in, but you can see the damage to the door frame there, yes.
All right. Did you go to the scene yourself?
I did.
And do you remember when that was?
Yes, it was on February 28th of this year.
And why did you do that?
So I went there to document the three-dimensional environment. So I used LiDAR technology, a 3D laser scanner, which takes really millions of individual 3D data points that I can take measurements from anywhere within the environment. I used that data to recreate a 3D model of the environment. I also took a number of photographs documenting the conditions of the residence, both the exterior and the interior, when I visited it.
May I approach the witness?
Yes, ma'am.
I am showing you what's been marked for identification as defense F. Can you take a look at that?
Yes,
Do you recognize that?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
These are a series of photographs that I took during my site inspection.
And you took those photos yourself?
That's correct.
Can you thumb through them and make sure you took all of those photos?
Before you testify to what they are, can you just look at them for us so it looks like you're doing the work?
Yes.
And are they a fair and accurate depiction of the scene as you observed it on February 28th, 2024?
That's correct.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd move into evidence what's been pre-marked as defense F into evidence as defense 9.
Any objection?
If I could review them, Judge.
Sure. Any voir dire you want to No?
Judge is like, hey, one of our voir dire. Looks like our people are still sleeping out there. I saw a couple people walking around on the set, or not on the set, but on the court. Let's see if I can show you. Let's see, 3. Oops. What did I just do? I broke it. Bucks 2. I was going to show you, and then I broke it.
Okay. Defense F will be in evidence without objection as defense number 9.
All right. So you mentioned that you did you went to the site in February of 2024.
That's correct.
So that's a little bit after this incident happened.
Yes.
Is it your understanding that someone else was residing there at the time?
Yes.
Okay. So all this stuff, this isn't Miss Lorinc's?
This photograph that's on the screen right now is 1663 address, so this is actually across the street.
Oh,
but
okay.
the photographs, subsequent photographs of the residence where Miss Lorincz was residing, there's a different resident living in that residence now.
Gotcha.
You've re-rented it.
So what is this?
So this is a photograph from across the street at that same address, looking towards Unit 3 or Miss Lorinc's residence.
I'm just going back.
We're going to add the
Is
people
this
that are
residence,
sleeping
Is
right
that
up
where Miss Owens resided?
That's my understanding, yes.
1663.
Still just sleeping.
And then you said that was from the address that was just shown looking toward Miss Lorinc's residence, is that right?
Yeah. So the previous photograph was taken from approximately the same location. One is looking towards 1663. This one is looking towards Miss Lorinc's residence.
I can see they're breathing. They're fine.
What is this?
This is a sequence of images beginning near Miss Owens' residence there and walking towards Miss Lorinc's. So here we're crossing the street. Again, just a sequence of photographs.
What is this?
So this is Miss Lorinc's residence. There's a sidewalk leading up to Unit 3 there. Unit 3 there is marked on the fence post there, if you can see it in the photograph. And then this is the front door to her residence. My understanding is that this door had been replaced. You'll note that there's no bullet hole or bullet defect in the panel of the door here in this photograph.
So this door is not the door that was involved in this case?
That's correct. My understanding is that door
Hold on
was
1 second.
entirely replaced.
Listen to the question and the answer. Please don't offer stuff without a question being answered, okay?
Okay.
Next question, please.
Next, the judge is going to chide the state for not objecting.
This is a photograph I took at the scene.
Is this the interior of the residence?
Yes.
Well, what's the
Why
lens
is
he's
all
using?
the furniture different?
Because it's a different person's
Well,
house.
it's different from the time of the incident because some time had passed and there's a new resident living there in that same space now. So new furniture, new decorations, or other things in the apartment, if you will.
These are the lenses that real estate agents use taking pictures of their property to make
What is
the
the
rooms look
fancy
bigger.
equipment in that photo?
So that's a 3D laser scanner that uses LiDAR technology. I was referring to this takes millions of 3D data points throughout the scene.
Is that yours?
That's correct.
And is it your understanding that this is kind of the area inside where Miss Lorinc's table and chairs used to be?
Yes.
Some more photos of the interior.
Yes.
And the countertops and all the walls, were they the same?
Yes. So there's tile, there's countertops, there's walls, there's a number of different elements to the interior of this residence that remain unchanged from time of incident to time of my inspection.
What is this?
This is another photograph from inside the residence. You see the Faro Focus scanner. So that, again, that's my scanner there in the foreground. It's looking towards the front door from the interior of the residence.
And what about this?
So this is a photograph of the door frame and the latch plates. You can see that they've been updated or changed since the time of incident.
It's 70 degrees outside, by the way. I'm not worried about them in the heat.
Now, I think you had mentioned previously
They've been there since before the sun
something
came
called
up.
LiDAR. Can you explain to the jury what LiDAR is?
Sure. LiDAR is a technology that basically the way the instrument works, and you may have seen these on a street corner with somebody with a tripod doing a land survey. It's very common technology for land surveys or surveyors to use. But basically the way LiDAR works is it's using what is typically infrared light or light that's just outside of the human visual spectrum, so we can't see the light. And what it's doing is it's using that light and recording from the point in time it leaves the instrument till when it hits an object and returns back to the instrument. And for the amount of time for that light to do that, as well as a horizontal and vertical angle. And based on that information, it's able to create 3D points. As I was mentioning, millions of those that really will define an area or an environment.
So do you use it to kind of map a 3D space?
Yes, I guess from my standpoint, it's 3D. LiDAR is not a new technology, but 3D scanners are fairly recent. And from my standpoint, there's really no better way to document and preserve physical evidence than using 3D laser scanning.
So is that, tell me, like, the LiDAR is an acronym, is that right?
That's right.
And what does it stand for?
Yep, so it's commonly accepted for light detection and ranging. It's really just a combination of two words, light and radar. But you can see that light detection and ranging also works as an acronym, and so that's been kind of more commonly accepted in the industry.
Can you tell me some examples of LiDAR?
Sure. So the image you just saw was created with aerial LiDAR, which is on the right here. I just talked previously about a total station. That's, again, one of those that you might see somebody on the street corner using with a tripod for land surveying. The instrument I used was a 3D laser scanner. The one I used at the scene is slightly different than the one you see in the photograph, but they're both Faro 3D scanners. That's just a manufacturer. There's also mobile scanning and aerial scanning. They're all using that same LiDAR technology.
What is this?
It's a pretty
This is just a quick example. This actually demonstrates a couple things. One, camera matching photogrammetry, which I used in this case.
Well, that looks cool.
But the point cloud there that you see, or the LiDAR data, so when it's capturing those millions of 3D data points that define an environment, it's commonly referred to as a point cloud. So this is just a visual to help explain how that data is captured from an aerial standpoint.
It makes
so
me want to put on
flying
tinfoil
over
hats.
and recording that LiDAR.
And what is this?
This is the LiDAR that I captured there at the residence, so Miss Lorincz residence and the surrounding area. You can see on this image the number of points that were collected, so approximately 44 million 3D data points that define and describe that three-dimensional environment.
Looks like modern art.
So using that Faro Focus scanner, the premium scanner.
What is this?
This is just a closer view of it, so we're looking kind of from a top down at the neighborhood there. You can see some roofs, you can see the street, but these are individual 3D data points.
What about this?
And a little bit closer on that same point cloud, you can see the parking in front of Miss Lorinc's residence, which is shown essentially in the center of this image. This is an image just a little bit closer.
Is this...
This is Google Earth, and I put a filter on it.
A fan blade, maybe? Is that the interior of the residence that Ms. Lorincz resided at?
That's correct.
And what is this?
So this is a perspective view or orthographic view. Sorry, this is not an orthographic, but rather a perspective view or an oblique view of the residence there, and we're kind of just rotating around it. These images help you understand, I suppose, that this is all captured in 3D and that we can view it from, because it's all in 3D, we can view it from any perspective or any angle.
And this is LiDAR data too?
That's correct.
What about this?
This is, again, the same point cloud of LiDAR data. You can see the residence there.
This
is from his drone.
The same. This is from a slightly different view.
That's why he has the Part 107
And now
license.
we're rotating around towards the front of the residence.
All right, there's a lot of LiDAR. What is this?
This is the view
why I
of
charge
Vice Lawrence's
so much.
residence. You can see the same fence that was there in the photographs.
You don't need LiDAR.
For Unit 3 there, which is
A
right in the
regular
middle of
camera
this
would have
image.
been
How
just
long
as
does it
useful
take
here.
your fancy machine to gather all these little points?
I was probably there for a couple of hours, approximately.
There we go. Oh, no.
So this is that same 3D point cloud. The way the 3D scanner works is it'll also take photographs after it records the LiDAR data. So the grayscale images that you were looking at previously are based on the intensity of light returning to the scanner itself. And then this photograph, or sorry, this digital image, I should say, of the point cloud now incorporates photographs from the scanner. So this is the RGB or red, green, blue data overlaid on top of that point cloud.
Is that a similar thing closer up?
Yes, so this is approaching Unit 3 from the exterior. Again, this is the 3D data point cloud.
Why does he have LiDAR for this? We don't need LiDAR.
This is the front door of the residence. This is intensity data, again, so grayscale.
And what about this?
I can see LiDAR in the house.
So this is the interior of the residence. This is the LiDAR
The whole
data that
neighborhood?
was captured that is the same as it was at the time of the incident. So if it looks a little bit strange to you, that's because objects that were there during my inspection months after the incident occurred from a subsequent resident have been removed from this.
Is that what the blank space is, the white?
That's right, yep.
Is that the same in this image? There's some things removed?
Yes, so this is just a little bit closer to the kitchen there, but you can see the walls, the cabinets there at the kitchen countertop, the floor, all of that is.
This is
the
the
same
wrong
from
tool
time
for
of
this
incident
job.
To time of my inspection.
And what about this photo? Is that taken from the top?
Yeah, so this is an orthographic top view, so there's no perspective to it. Again, since it's all done within a three-dimensional environment, we can view it from any perspective. This is like a plan view. You might see something like this from an architect. So it's a straight-down plan view.
And all of those previous 10 or 15 photos you gathered when you went out to the site. Is that right?
A room
So
sketch with a couple
the
measurements.
images
would
of
be
the
just as
LiDAR scan data
effective.
is all scan data that I gathered during my site inspection, correct?
I think you had previously mentioned photogrammetry. Can you tell the jury what photogrammetry is?
Sure. Photogrammetry, again, the art and science of being able to take reliable measurements from two-dimensional media. There's I believe, a definition on this slide from the American Society of Photogrammetry and Remote Sensing, which maybe you'll find helpful, but it is a little bit more in-depth.
And is this demonstration of it?
Yeah, so this is a visualization I created that helps explain what photogrammetry is. This is based on research we did for the Society of Automotive Engineers. The idea was how accurate can we recreate a three-dimensional environment, in this case without visiting it, based on publicly available aerial LiDAR and aerial imagery. So what you're seeing right here is the combination of those two sources, aerial LiDAR and aerial imagery, and then we're surfacing that and creating an environment. And this part right here, what you see, what we're doing is we're solving for the camera's unique position, orientation, and field of view within that environment to where it matches. And then once we have that alignment or that camera match to the three-dimensional environment with the photograph, we can begin placing in pieces of physical evidence that are temporal in nature, that are no longer around for physical inspection, such as, in this case, the vehicle that you see, and then the pieces of blue, those crosshairs representing paint on the pavement.
That's a legitimate use for LiDAR, as opposed to the neighborhood pictures.
And so all
I'll
that
be
previously
charged for
mentioned
that.
stuff, going to the site, reviewing all the crime scene photos, I think taking the LiDAR data, all of that is leading to the creation of a model, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And did you create a computer model of the environment for this case?
Yes.
Okay, I'm fine with the LiDAR inside.
What information did you use to create that computer model?
So some of the information was what we're just walking through the LiDAR data that I collected during the site inspection. Because of the differences or the changes that had happened in the environment, I also used camera matching photogrammetry to locate where was the furniture, for instance, in that residence at the time of the incident. as well as the location of physical evidence as documented in these crime scene photographs.
And then when you're actually creating the model, are you using computer software?
That's correct.
And what kind of computer software did you use?
And so we're using, as I mentioned previously, Faro creates the scanner that I was using, the 3D laser scanner. I'm using Faro Scene to do the processing of that Autodesk recap to work with that point cloud and convert it into a format that I can use in Autodesk 3D Studio Max. I'm also using Autodesk AutoCAD to take dimensional measurements. Inside of 3D Studio Max, I'm using that for the camera matching photogrammetry. We also use other software for that as well.
Are those softwares and methodologies generally accepted in the incident reconstruction and 3D visualization communities?
Yes.
Did they create a fair and accurate representation of the incident site, including the furniture locations at the time of the incident and the physical evidence as documented by the officers shortly after the incident?
That's correct.
Did you also create a computer model of the parties involved in this incident, namely Ms. Lorincz and Ms. Owens?
Yes.
And are those computer models are they a fair and accurate representation of the clothing and the general body dimensions of those people in the time of the incident?
Yes.
How did he get the defendant in his model? I didn't see any pictures.
This is a photograph taken by the crime scene investigators shortly after incident. This is looking at the front of Ms. Lawrence's residence with a private property sign there in the yard.
And then, what is this?
This is the same photograph. What we've done is we've done some enhancement, if you will, or clarification to this photograph. Basically, we're using levels to bring out some of the objects that are actually contained inside the photograph, but where it's really dark and difficult to see. For instance, now you can see the trunk of the tree on the left, and perhaps all the way to the left, just above the police vehicles, you can see the edge of another residence across the street.
And were you using the computer software that you just mentioned to do that?
These adjustments to the photograph would have been done in probably Adobe Photoshop.
Photoshop the image. There we go.
So this is that same LiDAR point cloud. This is a different way of looking at it from a colorization standpoint, but you can see represented here is the camera match, or the alignment that I've been referring to with the LiDAR point cloud to this two-dimensional photograph. So that same tree is visible, the same residence to the left side of the photograph, as well as Unit 3 right in the middle where Ms. Lorincz was at the time of incident.
So are you taking photographs from the police and the stuff that you gathered from the LiDAR and putting it together so it's perfectly aligned?
That's correct. We're camera matching it, yes.
What is this?
This just shows the placement of the property sign. Again, so this is a piece of physical evidence that was no longer there during my site inspection, but using camera matching photogrammetry, we can solve for the location. So where was that sign at the time of the incident?
And what is this?
This is that same point cloud with RGB or photo overlays on top of it. So same camera match, just a different way of looking at the point cloud data.
Is this another police photo?
That's correct.
What is it of?
This is approaching the front door of Ms. Lawrence's residence.
How about this?
This is that same photograph with lens distortion corrected. So we're viewing that photograph inside the 3D modeling software, 3D Studio Max. And now you can see the point cloud that's been overlaid on the photograph. So this is the camera match.
What is this?
This is a resulting 3D model. So we also created a 3D model of the interior of the residence and some of the exterior as well, based on that same LiDAR data collected, as well as camera matching photogrammetry.
So was this created through your computer program?
That's correct.
And so is this the digital model of the site?
Yep, this is geometric model in the computer model inside of 3D Studio Max.
What is this?
This is another photograph of the front door of Ms. Lawrence's residence.
What is this?
This is that same photograph with lens distortion correction.
What is this?
This is the point cloud overlay on top of that photograph showing the camera match.
And once you camera matched it, what did you do?
So this is the three-dimensional model, again, created from the 3D LiDAR data. And this just shows the consistency in alignment between the 3D model and the photograph.
And what is this?
This is, again, the 3D model. This is a view of it with shaded materials on it. You can also see the bullet defect or bullet hole in the door, and how we're able to place that or solve for its location in the three-dimensional environment using camera matching photogrammetry.
This is another police photograph?
Yes.
What is it of?
This is looking essentially from the front door towards the interior of Ms. Lorinc's residence.
And what is this?
This is the same photograph, again with lens distortion correction.
So when you say lens distortion correction, are you talking about the reason that it's black on the outsides? Is that what that's doing?
That's correct. So lenses will have some amount of curvature to them typically. A good example of this that I'm sure you've seen from an artistic standpoint would be a fisheye lens, where people take photographs and it's quite distorted, right? The horizon will have a significant bend to it oftentimes. In order for us to use photographs in camera matching photogrammetry, we have to solve for and correct for lens distortion. And once we've corrected for it, then it'll be useful from an alignment standpoint to the 3D point cloud.
So you can take a picture and change the lens distortion or get out of it in that software?
You can correct for it, that's right.
What is this?
So this is that same LiDAR point cloud. You've seen this previously with perhaps the voids that they've been described, or the areas where there's really no data collected. That's because furniture or something there was occluding the view of the scanner, blocking that data from being captured. So this shows the alignment of the LiDAR point cloud that was captured that's consistent from time of my inspection to time of incident.
What is this?
This is the three-dimensional model overlaid again on top of that photograph, showing the camera match and the consistency between the model and the photograph.
What is this?
This is the same three-dimensional model. This is a shaded view. You can see the location of the couch, Ms. Lorinc's furniture, the table, the chairs, and this, I believe, is a freezer here in the foreground.
And is this another police photograph?
That's correct.
What is this?
This is the same photograph, again within the three-dimensional environment.
What about this?
This shows the point cloud overlay, so the areas that we've camera matched from the point cloud to the photograph itself.
What is this?
Same point cloud. This is just the intensity view of a given grayscale.
What about this?
This is the wireframe geometry of that environment and the overlay on top of the photograph.
And this?
This is the shaded view of that same three-dimensional model on top of the photograph.
Is this a police photograph of the laser?
That's correct.
And what is this?
It's that same photograph inside the 3D modeling software with lens distortion correction.
What about this?
This image shows the point cloud overlay.
What about this?
I've watched them
So
both
in this image,
shift around.
we're showing not only the
fun.
location of the furniture, again, the freezer, the chair that's visible on the couch that define the three-dimensional environment, but we're also solving for evidence. In this case, the laser trajectory that was placed by police at the scene. We're now locating that in the three-dimensional environment using camera matching photogrammetry as well.
And is that the red thing that
Yes.
in that photo?
So it's a green laser in the original photograph. In this image, we're representing it with a red line or red geometry.
And what is this?
This is a shaded view of that three-dimensional environment with the laser trajectory.
What about this photo?
This is another photograph from the police with the laser trajectory.
And what is this?
This is that same photograph inside the three-dimensional environment with lens distortion correction.
And what is this?
And with point cloud overlaid on top of that image.
And this?
And then this shows the same idea but from a different angle as the previous photograph. So again, we're solving for the location of different furniture. So you can see the wireframe geometry that's overlaying the photograph, representing the location of the table, the chairs.
I want to know how many
freezer,
hours of work
as well
he's
as
put into
physical
this.
evidence placed at this scene. The laser trajectory we're solving for, its location and orientation here in the scene using this photograph. It's represented in red inside the three-dimensional model.
And what about this?
This is that red geometric representation of the laser trajectory inside the 3D model.
Did you, you mentioned that you also did models of the people involved?
That's correct.
And how did you do that?
So those models are created based on information I had. So I met with Miss Lorincz, and again, I photographed her, and I took 3D laser scans similar to what you saw of the interior of the residence. I did 3D scans of Miss Lorincz. And then for Miss Owens, her, as well as Miss Lorincz, they're based on photographs from the time of incident and body-worn camera footage for their clothing. And then Miss Owens, the autopsy was also used to understand her overall height or dimensions.
What is this?
This is a photograph I took of Miss Lorincz.
And how tall was she?
She's 5'5".
How much did she weigh at the time that you met with her?
I don't recall how much she weighed at that time. I'm sorry.
Thank Di. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you.
And what is this?
This is the LiDAR point cloud of Miss Lorincz. So this is based on 3D scan data I collected when I visited Miss Lorincz.
It's like a LiDAR image of the defendant.
What is this?
This is a three-dimensional model of Miss Lorincz that we created based on that LiDAR data.
And does the information on the thing that says Susan Lorincz, height 5'5", weight 180, is that information that you gathered at the time?
No, that's, yes, some of that is from the time. So the 5'5" is consistent with both the incident report as well as the LiDAR data and the photographs I took when I met with Miss Lorincz. The weight is based on the incident report.
Okay.
This is getting a little strange.
So the weight was not at the time that you met with her, but it's the date, the weight that she was at the time of the incident.
That's correct.
And what is this?
This is the resulting three-dimensional model of Miss Lorincz on the right. On the left, you can see an image from a police body-worn camera that was used as a reference for creating that model and the clothing that she was wearing from the time of incident.
This is all building up to a really cool recreation video.
This is Miss Owens, three-dimensional model of her on the right.
What is the information in the middle?
So those are body-worn camera images. So this is taken from the investigating officers and the body-worn camera video. Those images were used as a reference for understanding what Miss Owens was wearing at the time of the incident, her clothing.
And you mentioned gathering autopsy data, is that correct?
Yeah, so I also referenced the autopsy report as well as photographs and radiology images.
Are those from the autopsy report?
Yes, so the text on this image is from the autopsy report describing her injuries, as well as the diagram in the middle, and then photographs on the right.
What's that bottom photograph?
So that's a radiology image showing Miss Owens. In this image, you can also see the bullet where it was located at the time. This image was captured on kind of her left side, if you will.
So did you take all of those images and all of those measurements and all of those pictures and put them all together to create your 3D computer model of the scene and the people?
This better be good.
Yes.
And did you consult with any other experts in developing this 3D computer model?
Yes.
Who was that?
Mouthpiece.
I also consulted with ballistic expert Mr. Ray.
And did you work independently or in collaboration with Mr. Ray?
Both.
So tell me what you did independent of him.
So independently, I did the work that was kind of previously described through this presentation. So capturing the data myself at the scene, using it for camera matching photogrammetry, creating an accurate model, including the location of physical evidence there inside the three-dimensional model. Three-dimensional models, including wound locations for Miss Owens, but three-dimensional models for both Miss Owens and Miss Lorincz. And then from a collaboration standpoint,
Yeah, what did you, was
Sorry.
that all that you did independently?
Yes,
Okay.
I believe so.
Then what did you do in collaboration with Mr. Wright?
So from a collaboration standpoint, I worked with Mr. Wright to establish where Miss Lorincz was at the time of shot, her position such that it would be consistent with physical evidence from that laser trajectory, as well as the cartridge casing that was found on the countertop in the kitchen, and Miss Owens' position outside of the residence, such that her position would be consistent with her wound path and physical evidence based on Mr. Wright's ballistic expertise.
And then did you prepare some photographs?
This
of
could
the
be like
3D
a $15,000 model if you did it.
Some
well.
images, yes.
What is this?
So this is an image of, or a three-dimensional diagram. This is an orthographic side view, sometimes referred to as an elevation view. You can see the door, or the front door of the residence is on the left. You can see some of the exterior with the fence there. You can see the freezer, the chairs, and a dining room table in their location where they were at the time of the incident.
What about this?
So this is a placement of that laser trajectory as determined through camera matching photogrammetry.
And I noticed it went back to green. Is this the exact same angle and all that from the police?
Yeah, sorry if there's any confusion there. It was green. It was a green laser in the photographs from the police. I used red geometry to help define and show how it was camera matched and located. And then I'm representing it here in green inside the model.
What is this?
This is a position, again, that was worked with Mr. Wright in collaboration. It's also consistent with Ms. Lorinc's statement as to where she was standing at the time of the shot. So this image is of that same environment with all the same furniture locations, but now it incorporates Ms. Lorincz in a position consistent with physical evidence at time of shot.
Her torn rotator cuff.
Same image again. Now we're incorporating Miss Owens into this image and her position such that it's consistent again with physical evidence and with Miss Lorinc's testimony.
Now, can you tell me what this is showing us? Starting off, why don't you start off with is the green line still the same laser that we've been talking about?
That's correct. So that's, and it's labeled in this image as police trajectory. So that's the laser trajectory that was placed by the crime scene personnel at the time of incident.
And then I see a blue dotted cone. What is that?
So that cone represents a plus or minus 5 degree, or for a total of 10 degree cone that was placed at the direction of Mr. Wright, the ballistic expert Mr. Wright. That cone represents a range of possible, or an area of possible locations where the shot was fired from.
And I noticed that there's also a yellow line. What is the yellow line?
The yellow line represents the three-dimensional model and the location where Miss Lorincz was at the time of shot in our model, again, consistent with the ballistic evidence. So it's inside of that plus or minus 5 degree cone here. It's also connected to the bullet hole in the door, and then her position inside the model consistent with the cartridge case.
So I noticed that the yellow line is not all the way at the bottom of the 10 degree cone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so that position is not as far down as could have been still within the cone. Is that right?
That's correct. It could be a little bit lower. It could be a little bit higher.
What is this?
So this is that same three-dimensional environment with objects located through camera matching photogrammetry, including that freezer by the front door. You see the chairs and the table. This is, again, like a plan view or a top-down view.
What is this?
This is that same image, but with the addition of a 3D laser. So this is the green laser as documented by the police.
And what is this?
This is that same sequence. So here you can see Miss Lorincz in a position where she, consistent with physical evidence, where she would have shot.
And what about this one?
This image includes Miss Owens' position.
Miss Lorincz or Miss Owens?
Miss Owens.
So it has both people?
That's correct.
And are these just the top-down views that we've just seen from the side, like the last?
Yeah, it is the same sequence of images that you were just looking at from an elevation or side view. Now we're looking at it from a top-down or plan view.
Okay.
How'd they get the 0.2 degrees variant here?
So this has the same 10-degree cone incorporated into the 3D model, again, based on the direction of ballistic expert Mr. Wright. And it shows Miss Lorincz in a position near the kitchen table or dining room table.
All right. What is a visualization?
This is the big one. This is the big
So
money.
a 3D visualization could be used to describe a number of different things. Again, from just a standpoint of a 3D model, you could have a single image of it. It could be a 3D environment. In this case, it's a recreation or reenactment, I should say, of events based on Miss Lawrence's recollection of events.
So did you create a visualization to depict Miss Lawrence's recollection of events?
That's correct.
And was that recollection consistent with all the physical evidence?
Yes.
The visualization was? Sorry, not the recollection. Was the visualization consistent with all the physical evidence?
Yes.
May I first real quick?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, roll the tape. Let's see this video. It better be good. There's a lot of setup for this.
For identification as defense exhibit G, do you recognize it?
I do.
How do you recognize it?
This is a DVD of the...
Not what is it, but how do you recognize it?
How do I recognize it? My apologies. This is... I have my initials on it. I have seen this DVD.
And what is it?
It is a 3D visualization that was created for this incident.
And is the visualization you created a fair and accurate representation of the recollection of events?
Yes.
And I think you mentioned previously, but is the positioning of Ms. Owens and Ms. Lawrence shown in the visualization at the time the shot was fired consistent with all of the physical evidence in this case?
Yes.
At this time, defense would move what's been marked for identification as G, I believe, as defense 10.
Any objection of order?
Your Honor, I have no objection to the visualization being shown to the jury as a demonstrative aid.
But it can't go
You got an
back as
objection to being
evidence.
placed into evidence?
Yes, Your Honor.
What's the nature of the objection?
Your Honor, may we may approach?
Sure.
As they approach, the sleepers are still sleeping. They've both been shifting around. They brought a blanket. They spread it out. They've got bikes, taking the shoes off. They've been out there since before 6 a.m. That's when I first noticed them. And it's only 70, 72 degrees or so. It's not bad. Hey, we've got a prank call. Hang on.
Overrule the objection. Allow it evidence as defense number 10.
They hung up. So it is going to be an evidence. That means it will go back with the jury to deliberation. That's the key difference. We'll see how this plays out. I mean, he used all these. Oh, wow. That's what all these data points are for. No trespassing. Bang, 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 bang. Oh, wow. There's no testimony that... I can't believe this. Just go for 15 minutes? There's the broken door. It's like we're actually there watching it happen. You see the mirror shaking? That's not...
Did you do anything else in this case?
I don't believe so.
Again, that visualization that we just watched, was that consistent with all of the physical evidence and everything that you reviewed in this case?
Yes.
And was it consistent with the opinion of ballistics expert, Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Ella, they're all right. They're sleeping. They're in the park up behind the
No
house.
further questions. Oh, do you want?
Was that worth it? That was a lot of buildup. Was it worth it for that recreation?
Yes, Your Honor. If we could have the state's podium.
I think if anything, it showed
It
it was just somebody knocking on the door.
I use media from the state's desk.
Okay.
I believe we're ready.
Wonder how much they paid for that.
Good morning, Mr. Tartru.
Morning.
So this computer animation that you made and that we just viewed, there was a part in there where the door goes inward, correct? A little bit?
Yes.
That door, you never tested the door, you never inspected the door, correct?
That's correct. To my knowledge, the door was unavailable for inspection.
And then you never recorded anyone banging on the door that was shot through in this case, correct?
That's correct.
So you never took any measurements of anybody banging on the door in this case, correct?
That's correct.
And you're basing this whole computer animation based on a lot on the recollection of the defendant's events, correct?
I'm sorry, but
You're basing a lot of this computer animation on the defendant's recollection of events, correct?
yes, that was certainly a consideration when creating the visualization.
But you have no idea how much force will be required to move this door inwardly, do you?
Again, the door wasn't available for my inspection.
So the answer would be no, correct?
That's correct.
And you have no college degree in physics, correct?
That's correct.
And you're being paid, I think, $280 an hour, correct, in this case?
That's correct.
And I believe you've put in probably more than 50 hours in this case, correct?
I believe that's correct, yes.
All right. Is there much more than 50? Do you know?
I don't know my total hours for this case.
Okay. So 280, and we'll just say at least 50. That's probably about $14,000, correct? You've been paid to do your work in this case.
That sounds correct. I don't know.
Told you they'd run her about $15,000 for recreation.
To create a computer animation that you took some artistic liberty in making that door go inwardly, correct?
So I don't know about artistic liberty, but it is consistent with the recollection of Miss Lorincz.
Now, I would also point out that you believe that this computer animation is consistent with the recollection of Miss Lorinc's events, right? You've said that, I think, multiple times.
Her recollection of the events, yes.
And in that computer animation, we just saw the firearm that is fired by the computer animation was pretty high, correct?
Yes, you could say it's high.
Yeah. Would you say that firearm was probably over Miss Lorinc's head, correct?
I would say it's somewhere near the top of her head, yes.
Okay, so this is an accurate computer animation, correct?
Yes, it is. In terms of the 3D site reconstruction, and yes.
I'd like to show you a clip of Miss Lorinc's actual recollection of events, sir.
Oh, this will be good.
Okay, how were you holding the gun when you fired it? With two hands?
Yeah.
Now, Miss Lorinc's recollection of events, holding the gun with two hands like this, is directly inconsistent with your computer animation up here, correct?
I would also say she wasn't sitting like she is in this video frame, but and from a directly inconsistent, I mean, it's consistent with her recollection of where she was standing, and it's consistent with physical evidence.
Question, sir. Now, sir, I want to move on to the computer animation. It's not a representing accurate timing of event, correct?
Correct.
All right. It's not a accurate representation of the entire sequence of events, is it correct?
Well, I'm sorry, what do you mean by entire sequence?
Yeah, this computer animation doesn't reflect the entire sequence of events, does it?
No, I wouldn't say it does.
And there were some things that were left out in this computer animation, correct?
I don't know what you're referring to, sorry.
Well, you didn't include the defendant calling 911 before Advocate even came to the door, did you?
That's correct.
All right, and you did not include the defendant in the bathroom walking out to the front door and finding out that Advocate was the one banging on the front door, did you?
That's correct.
And you didn't include the defendant, once the banging on the door happened, walking all the way back into the bathroom and washing her hands. You never included that, did you?
No, that is not a part of the visualization.
And then you never included the defendant walking into the kitchen after leaving the bathroom and washing her hands, did you? While the banging was going on.
That is also not a part of that visualization.
And you didn't include the defendant then walking all the way back into her bedroom and grabbing not the .22 but the Remington .380 pistol, and then walking all the way back out to the front door and holding the gun like this and shooting, did you?
That is also not a part of the visualization, no.
And sir, you have no medical expertise, do you?
That's correct.
No further questions.
Any redirect?
Briefly. Mr. Smith asked you about Ms. Lorincz holding the weapon. Is that on property?
Yes.
And he played a clip from Ms. Lorinc's interview with the police.
Yes.
And in that clip, it showed her kind of making a gesture, holding her hands together.
Yes.
And your visualization also shows her with both hands together on the guns. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Nothing else. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Is he excused?
Yes.
Sure, you're excused. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Those are expensive. I'm surprised they got one of those in this case. 15 grand
And ladies and
roughly.
gentlemen, we're taking a short break. I know we've ordered food. I want to find out when your food is coming. I think it was ordered hot food this time. It's going to be a little more precise on when you get it. So we'll take a short break, and I'll get an update on your lunch, and then we'll go from there, okay? Thank you. Please put your notebooks down.
During the break, let's check in on our sleepers, shall we? They're still sleeping. They've shifted around a little bit.
All right, we'll take a short break. I'm going to check on their lunch.
Judge is all about the food.
The jurors outside the courtroom will be in recess.
A little bit of a hot mic, but all right. They've spent a lot of money on experts. I think 2 of them have missed so far. The 2 experts we've had today, they weren't the best. First of all, the calibration guy was not convincing. There was, other than he's had a lot of cool jobs, it just didn't seem like he was an expert that could really shed light on the situation in a way that the jury might find beneficial.
Call from.
It's me.
It's me, Donnie.
I think we have a double overdose.
Oh no.
I'm almost positive. I know my overdoses.
They brought a blanket, spread out the blanket, parked their bikes.
That's what they do.
Off.
You get comfortable before you pass out. I mean, I've done it before.
I have to tell you, it's
possible. You got to admit it's at least possible.
It's the
because
realm of
it's very odd. It's very. I'm looking at it right now. It's very disturbing. I mean, they're near. What is it with a basketball court? I mean, that's an odd place.
Well, you don't have the benefit of the information that I have before the stream started.
Oh, they spoke to you.
No, I could see them.
But they're not even moving now. This is weird.
They're sleepy. They're tired.
It's like a double feature. All right, listen, let me go.
Okay, see you, Donnie.
You're doing great. You make it rain. Make it rain.
See you, Donnie. Bye. They're sleeping. They've been moving around. They were up. They were there. Let's see, what time did I get up? 5:30. They were up talking a little bit. They basically just barely laid down and went to sleep right as the sun was coming up. So, and it wasn't like a pass out thing.
Call from
Paul.
Paul, what's up?
No, not much. Listen, clearly, ladies and gentlemen, we are watching two agents, secret agents, I might add, of the dogs and the chickens. And why, Recovery Addict, have you not called the police on these two agents of mischief and mayhem? Obviously, you can look at them and tell that they're just disturbing everything around them.
As you can see from the area, as people are walking by, walking their dogs, riding bikes. There was a mom with a little kid out running around on the court. No one else is concerned. No one else is concerned.
No.
These are people that are out here every morning. So,
no, they're just chilling.
they're
Although
very good friends.
I would love it. I would love it if somebody walked over there and just was like, and here's the thing. This is why you would this is why you should never vacation with me, because I'm the type of person that would walk over to them after about a half an hour and be like, "Hey guys, did you know my buddy's streaming right now and there's over 2,000 people watching you sleep?"
If you could look over that way and just wave. That would be...
Oh no! I go for the full disturbance. Because see, this way, when they go to the bar next time or they go home, man, do they have something to talk about.
Yeah, it's they're guests. Fun fact, okay, like it or not, out in public, if you're out in public and you have no reasonable expectation of privacy, I can film you. Oh, look, there's a dog.
Yep.
You see that dog zip by? That guy was moving.
Yep, there's doggo.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, there it goes. Oh no, okay, that was the dog you were talking about. Yeah, because you're delayed on my end.
Yep. That was.
Where is this? Is this at the B&B you're at, or is this like piped in from a remote?
I'm looking out my back window. This is like if I stand up and turn out that way, that's what I see. So this is live from the master bedroom.
So you're the nosy neighborhood Karen now.
Yeah, that's me.
No,
I was going to use it for the mountain cam, but the sky is just the fog's back, the smoke's back, and I just can't see anything. And then these guys are out there sleeping. So.
That's cool though. I mean, that's chill. It's all right. Yeah, no, I love it when people scream at other people in public and they're like, "You can't film me," especially if they're authorities. I'm like, yeah, they can. Yeah, they can film me all day.
Yeah. I was concerned at first. They're breathing, and then remembering what they were doing before. I think they're just tired.
Yeah, they're probably just like I said, just like you said, just getting some sun, chilling.
Yeah, and it's beautiful out there. Oh, what a day to be out and just enjoying the weather. It's like 70, 72 degrees out there. It's great. It's beautiful.
Oh wow.
So,
yeah. Well, I mean, I used to live in D.C. though, in St. Louis. So yeah, it's one of those things that my mind did not first go to. Oh, look, innocent young people sleeping on a blacktop. my mind went to meth is a hell of a drug.
No, I have to say, this neighborhood is amazing. I'm actually a little bit astounded. Last night there was a big group playing pickup basketball. We probably had 20 people there at the basketball court, just young guys, girls. We've had people that come out here and like trainers, like coaching, like high school aged students in basketball. They've got the cones out. They're doing drills. This is a really cool park, and normally it's like spotless, but the group that left last night left 3 empty water bottles, and that's
oh wow.
I mean, every single person who has a dog carries a doggy bag. And picks up after the dog. This is an amazing little area, so I'm not concerned. It's not a bad area at all. So
well, and look at it, and just look at it now, though, RA. I mean, it's wonderful, except for the white trash that's on the court.
That's not white trash.
I'm teasing.
You're gonna get in trouble. Oh man.
That's what I do. Hell, have you met me?
I got to time you out on the phone now. We're in a break right now, so you called at the right time. Regarding the case here, let's go here. Let's leave the couple, leave them be for a minute.
Yeah, I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're great people.
Yeah, I mean, who hasn't fallen asleep at a park with a girlfriend? I mean, raise your hand.
I haven't.
Is it just me?
I passed out at a. I passed out at a park once.
So you and Donnie both have been like, well, I've been there. But
well, no, I was waiting for, it was in St. Louis. I was really not well coming back from a party. And I was trying to catch a cab, or I forget whether it was a cab or a bus or something. It was at night. And I just straight up fell asleep on the bus stop. Just passed out where I sat. Woke up 2 hours later to a cop being like, "You alive?" And I was like, "Yeah."
Why are you disturbing me?
Oh yeah, no, it was an interesting. I got a ride home from a St. Louis cop, so that was interesting because he was getting off shift. But yeah, it was one of those things where I was like, I thought I was getting arrested and taken to jail.
Best Ubers ever, because you don't have to pay or tip.
Well, unless they get snarky with you and take you to their house, which is always this big place with lots of guards. I never understood that. It's always very puzzling.
I've had that ride once. I had the ride to the police station once. I was in the front seat, just for the record. I guess technically they had taken my firearm from me at that point. Long story, but I'm not trying to ignore anyone. Bite me. What's happening? What did I miss? Do you have a question? Horsefeather, I have information. I'm not going to share on the stream as to why I think they're just fine. That's it.
Tactile hugs bite me, if that's what you're referring to.
Oh.
No, I'm writing this. I'm trying to. I need your help and the chat's help. Okay, so we're not going to go full dark. We're going to get close, but we're not going to go full. Okay, so the story I'm writing is about a teacher that has to take over a class of kids. However, it's a fantasy world. The magic system in this world basically works like raw electricity. Some people have it, some people don't. And it's kind of you use it without, you can channel it without really meaning to. So here's the question.
Magic?
Yes. So here's the problem. Well, especially when you're a child. Mm-hmm. So a 2-year-old throws a tantrum, right?
Is this like a fire starter scenario?
No. Well, imagine a 2-year-old that can throw a tantrum and throw fireballs at the same time, emulating themselves and everyone around them.
Okay, so now I'm thinking Mr. Incredible's baby. Go ahead.
Yes, except it can do self-harm. Really. So yeah. So the government of this fantasy world takes this problem pretty seriously because it's children, obviously. Mm-hmm. So the way, because I was trying to think of ways how they could get around this, because kids hurting themselves is not good for anyone.
Right.
So the only way I was thinking they could do this possibly to control the kids is maybe give them something like their version of Ritalin to kind of keep kids kind of docile until they can learn to control themselves.
Like anti-magic Ritalin. I'm with you.
Well, it's not they can still channel. It's just to keep their mood down.
Oh, okay.
And I was thinking, is that a reasonable thing for something to do? Because there's nothing you can do to stop them from channeling. There's nothing. Well, I mean, there's one thing, but that gives you the same problem.
You've created a fantasy world and asked me to say, is it reasonable? Is that what you're saying? Is the premise solid? Is that what?
Yeah. Sorry, say it again.
I said go for it. Go for it. It sounds good.
Okay.
You've got.
Yeah, because I was going to say I can't think of anything else that they could do under reasonable circumstances.
I don't know. I think we need a live stream where you act this out. Maybe a computer model.
I'm not acting this out. I'll tell you about it, but that's
it. Awesome. Bite Me 19 months says, I have a crime crush on Thal and Ivan. Love it here. Thank you, Ari and Mods, for all you do. Buttercup sends butter sugars. Thank you, Bite Me. Appreciate it. Thanks for counting the mosquitoes. Somebody has to do it, and that's you. I appreciate you keeping tabs on the little bitey guys.
And Bite Me, we have a crush on you too. It's just,
yeah.
we can't publicly say that. Especially Ivan, he'll go to prison again. Uh-oh.
Are we back?
We're back. Oh, well, we're not back in court. Okay,
sort of.
I gotta go.
So we don't need to eat.
Sort of? Bye.
You know what? Have I ever given you less than an hour?
Yeah, I've only taken 30 minutes.
Not me.
I know, you get the whole thing, you get to walk out and go.
No, but I've always given you at least an hour.
I don't know.
Right. I'm not saying have other judges given you less than an hour. I've never given you less than a full hour.
You've never given me less than an hour. You're not right.
So I'll give you, if you need a little bit more than an hour, I'll give you what you need.
I'm good with whatever you
All right, so we'll give you everyone an hour, and that'll be good. We'll say 11:45 to 12:45. How about that?
Okay.
So, I'm not talking about what the other people on the hall do. Don't worry about them. So,
You ready?
yes, ma'am. I gotta do warrants at lunch anyway, so. All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't get too comfortable because your lunch is here. And so I want to make sure it gets to you before it cools down. I think the bailiff is down there right now picking it up and bringing it up here. I just want to let you know what the schedule is going to be like. We'll have at least an hour for lunch. After that, we'll have some witnesses in the afternoon.
I'm betting.
And then I'm going to release you for the day because then we'll have our closing arguments tomorrow morning. All right?
Hey, that's
Given
perfect timing.
the possible length of closing arguments, if I did it today, you would be getting the case very late, and I want to make sure you have the appropriate amount of time to deliberate on the case, okay? So most likely the closings will take a lot of the morning tomorrow, but then you'll have plenty of time to deliberate on the case. Keep in mind that when you're deliberating, you can't have your phones with you. So if you need an emergency number, let us know, we can give it to you. Otherwise, we're going to live just like the 1980s, no cell phones for at least a couple of hours. And maybe that life is better, I don't know.
1980s.
But otherwise, enjoy your lunch. Remember, you can't discuss the case yet. And we'll see you in a little over an hour, okay? Thank you.
Okay, so they're going to take a lunch for an hour. This is going to be nearly perfect for how the Telus trial is starting. That'll be great. This is great.
Adjourned until 12:45.
All right, so they're adjourned until 12:45, which is an hour from now. Oh, there's more ASMR to come, it looks like. Okay, all right, let's turn that off. What have we here? We have to keep update on the people. The people are right here. I think they moved again. This is why I can't show you the mountains, because you just can't see them. That's normally where the mountains are, but instead all I get is park. So they brought water bottles. They've got shoes. They got a blanket. They did shift around a little bit. I will say that defense has not impressed me today. I have not the thumbnail check. We could do that as well. Just 1 second. Let's bring that over on camera 3, shall we? Okay. All right. Here's our thumbnail. Oh, that looks terrible. Much better. All right. Thumbnail check right here. Bad neighbor murder trial. I'm out here. I got to go to work. Who was that? Who had to go to work? We've got the defendant. We've got the tablet. The dog pooping on the grass. No pooping on the grass sign. We've got the people sleeping. Look, it was just like inserted in here nearly perfectly. Might need a little crop on this end. Maybe a tiny bit. I don't know what does it look like if we crop it down. So look at that. People sleeping on the grass. Those are our two sleepers on the basketball court. The camera, a new door. There's it looks like a bullet hole. The 911 operator with the honeycomb on his arm. We've got the judge's chair, which I love. We've got the compass. What's the compass for? Not sure. These are some of the sports that were played. The roller skates, the no trespassing, keep off the grass. Cursive counter. No cursive today. No cursing today. We're only up to 81, still from yesterday. Let me look at the instructions here. What's the compass for? I don't see Kool-Aid Man, sleeping bikers, Amazon worker witness who just wanted out of court. Okay, that's got to work. All right, that's the latest and greatest. It looks great. You guys have done a great job with this one. It's going to be relatively quick. With closing arguments tomorrow. Oh, I didn't even see the cats. You guys catch the cats here? Do you guys see those? And the gun in the basket. There's the umbrella. There's a few items I missed initially. Looking good. I need to get this little left side of the corner off. I'm going to save it and try to fix this maybe and crop that a little bit, make the screen a little better.